Hello and welcome once again to the Cine-Files, where we meet today to do the sad job that we seem to have to do sometimes.
Yeah.
And this one really caught me off guard, which is we just lost the great Penny Marshall, and it was just a couple of months ago that we recorded our episode on A League of Their Own, and I know those two things are unconnected, but it just feels very fresh to me.
I know. What if we're the harbinger of death for a lot of these people? And I hate to speak about it so
Jesus.
casually like that, but we have done a number of these movies for people who have passed away over the last year or two, almost a few months after we do the movie. So it's a very interesting coincidence. Or we get inspired to do the movies, I guess, also by the passing of certain artists. But Penny Marshall was the one that really it was a sad thing to read. And I remember Kay falling in love with A League of Their Own, like talking about her love with A League of Their Own, and then us all talking about what happened to Penny Marshall as a director, because she kind of burst onto the scene with Big and had a few other hits, and then A League of Their Own, but then didn't quite keep following it up at the level that, like, say, her brother Gary did, and things of that nature.
I don't know. Gary makes a whole bunch of movies.
He does. They're not all good.
That's what I was going to say. It's like how... So I would say we can say that Penny Marshall certainly has 3 great movies.
Yeah.
And a couple of good movies.
Yep.
I don't know that I don't even know if I think Gary Marshall has 3 great movies.
It's a good question.
Well,
I mean, some good performances.
There's some good performances.
As Mr. the chocolate guy in League of Their Own.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, him in Lost in America. But this is not the Gary Marshall tribute.
That's right.
We're here to talk about the Penny Marshall tribute. And I think, the 3 great movies to me, I mean, I like Jumpin' Jack Flash.
Sure.
But Big is just a lovely film. And we were talking, that maybe sometime in the new year we're going to tackle Big, because it's a really fun movie.
I think we're going to have Vogel back again.
Oh, is that one of his?
Oh my God. Off the charts, one of his favorite films.
Well, he is a grown-up child. So.
He is. Every time he sees a piano, that's all he wants to do.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a long time. It's been, been at least 10 years.
Yeah. It's been a bit.
And I love Awakenings. I think Awakenings, because she does that thing. Penny Marshall has that thing that very few directors can do, which is to be genuinely funny and genuinely moving. Sometimes right in the same scene. And Awakenings definitely has that.
It's an underappreciated dramatic performance from both Robin Williams and Robert De Niro. Robin Williams doesn't do any of his shtick in that movie. It's incredible. Doesn't try to slide it in. Doesn't do anything. It's his pain. Penny Marshall really sets the camera in some fantastic places to showcase Robin Williams' emotional journey through the movie, and his desperation to get it right, and his desperation to be to fix these people, to heal these people, to cure these people, and then his desperation when they have to put more and more of this medicine inside them to keep them in the condition that they're at, and how sad he feels and how conflicted really he feels about what he's having to do. And on the other side is De Niro's journey, which is just as powerful emotionally in a different way.
He is as soft and innocent, and I mean, and here's an interesting story about that performance, which is I've read a bunch of Oliver Sacks books.
Oh, okay.
And Oliver Sacks is the guy that Robin Williams' character is based on.
Right.
And he's written The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat, and this one on music, and there are these great books about the brain, which I'm fascinated by. And he was on the set. And here's the story that he told: is that De Niro was very interested in the people that had suffered from this affliction, that's some kind of extreme, strange version of Parkinson's, where I think they called them shut-ins, I think is the name. And so they went to several hospitals, and he was studying their case histories and, being with the people, and they couldn't necessarily connect with him. And then Oliver Sacks brought him in and did sort of the tests that you would do on these people. And what Oliver Sacks, I read this book a while ago, but basically what he described was there's certain automatic reflexes that someone who didn't suffer from this thing wouldn't do. It's not actually physically possible, because the way the brain is working, the way our brains work, we couldn't respond that way.
Right.
And De Niro did. He said that somehow he really believed that he had figured out something in his brain to be able to do a thing that a person not suffering from this affliction couldn't do.
Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, Oliver Sacks is a very charming, wonderful writer. And so is there some exaggeration there? Maybe. But it was a scientific book, that I was reading.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really lovely movie.
Yeah, and it's I know A League of Their Own is. That's the thing. A League of Their Own is a populist film. Big is a populist film. I think Awakenings showed you
some depth.
Yes, the path that Penny could have gone on more if she had wanted to. More deeply in other things, and it's a female director. Like no one talks about. She's a female director in the '80s directing a film like Big that's so powerful. Then A League of Their Own in the early '90s, of course, Awakenings as well. So this is, and we're all like, oh, we need more female directors, but people don't respect Penny's work enough as a female director. It's almost frustrating because see Ava DuVernay getting, she should do this, this, and this off of Selma. Great, but Penny has three powerful three fantastic films that didn't necessarily translate to consistent work for the rest of her life. It's interesting.
Well, what's weird is what we can't know is we don't know what she was up against.
Yeah.
We don't know how...
Or if she even wanted to.
Yeah, or if she wanted to.
Yeah.
I mean, like, my guess is she had to fight like crazy to get those 3 movies.
Probably.
And then we know she didn't get the respect that she deserved off of them. Mm-hmm. At the time, I think because both Big and League of Their Own are over $100 million movies,
right? I
think.
Yeah.
And... if you were anybody else, Hollywood rolls out the red carpet.
Sure.
I don't think they rolled out the red carpet for her.
Right.
That's what's the great thing about what's happening today is that the culture has shifted. Hollywood is still ridiculously sexist,
sure,
and ridiculously, mostly run by white men.
Yeah.
But there is still at least trying to put on the show of moving forward female directors of color, people with different worldviews.
Yeah.
And that certainly wasn't going on.
And if anything is connected to her legacy, I hope it's that.
Yeah.
That she kind of, in some small way or big way, opened the door or destroyed the perception of women being able to direct films successfully and effectively and making money with their films.
Well, that's the thing that I was going to say is that it's not like she was trying to do weird, arty, only strongly feminist, female-centric. I mean, League of Their Own is female-centric, but it is a popular comedy about in a sports movie. Yeah. So it's like she's trying to be right out there in the mainstream.
And what's great about League of Their Own is in each one of these, Big addresses this idea of the return to innocence, right? That we forget or we lose when we enter into this executive 30s and trying to be successful and trying to do like. We can't forget that return to innocence, which is really what we're all about. What we have to remember that's within us, so that we can do good in the world. Whereas League of Their Own did tackle this idea of women in a man's profession, and that's like I'm sure a lot of her experiences as a female director trying to break into having to fight to get her movies made in a prominently male profession. I'm sure there's shades of that all over that movie that reflects back. And these women who are all from different walks of life. That's another gift of this movie. There are women who are uneducated and can't read, all the way to women who are incredibly intelligent and are quite capable of leading companies if they wanted to.
Right.
Everything in between, beauty queen, the sister, the tomboy sister, everything is here. All the way May, Rosie O'Donnell's character. All different types of women coming together, single moms, all coming together to pursue this dream of playing baseball and find some camaraderie. And she brings that out.
And this thing that came up over and over again with Kate Cannon, who was our fabulous guest on the show,
she was.
Is just taking this traditional male genre, which is the sports film, and saying that, yes, women can be in this genre and this film can be successful. And I know, as you're going to hear in this episode, how incredibly profound that was for Kay. Like, she would probably not be the director that she is today if she hadn't seen this movie. It is inspiring. It is funny. It is heartfelt. And it's sad for the reason that we're going to visit it again.
Yeah. And if she never got a chance to tell Penny that, I hope wherever Penny is, she knows that she influenced this incredibly talented and funny director to carry on the legacy of female directors in Hollywood.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I think we're going to give you our recording with the great Kay Cannon of Penny Marshall's A League of Their Own.
Batter up, hear that call. The time has come for one and all to play ball.
and welcome once again to the Cine-Files, where each week we enter the world of a great film. We explore its themes, the history, the filmmaking, and the influence it has on us today. My name is Steve Morris. I'm a filmmaker and directing instructor in Los Angeles, California.
Hello, everyone. My name is John Roca. I'm a voiceover artist and also host, writer, and producer of all kinds of things over there at Collider Video and now Collider Sports, and occasionally, every once in a while, an actor.
I'm starting to wonder if I need to say occasionally a filmmaker, because
Why?
I haven't made a film in a while.
Well, you're still pumping out that stuff. They're still coming out on Amazon. The Cage of Fear.
Beyond the Great White Shark, Beyond the Cage of Fear is back on Amazon. It was gone, and now it's back. But today, we are extremely excited to welcome a guest that we've been wanting to get for a really long time. She is the writer and producer of what I think is one of the funniest shows of the 21st century, 30 Rock. She was a writer and producer on New Girl. She is the writer of all three of the hilarious, heartfelt, and very musical films, the Pitch Perfect series. And she is the director of what I think is the funniest and most daring film this year, which is Blockers. Kay Cannon, please welcome you to the Cine-Files.
That is so nice. Thank you. I can't believe I'm here at the Cine-Files.
Well, the Cine-Files has wanted to have you here for a long time. So yes. And the film we're talking today was your request, which is Penny Marshall's 1992, A League of Their Own. Yeah. I have to say, I have an embarrassing confession to make. And that is that on the Cine-Files, we've done over 100 films. And John and I were looking back, and this is the first film we've done from a female director.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
I am serious.
Whoa.
And that is...
Which says volumes about the opportunities that have been there, but also about how we've been selecting these films by chance.
Yeah. Well, and we're two dudes.
Yeah.
And the fact is that in the history of Hollywood and the history of world cinema, there are not that many, and
it's not surprising.
And so while I'm totally embarrassed, and it is a complete oversight and mistake of the show, I'm also thrilled that the first time we have a female director that we're going to talk about, we have a female director on the show.
Yes. I love it.
So I think, as much as I don't like what happened in the last 100 films, I feel like we've missed a few things. I'm really thrilled about how it's worked out. Can you tell me how you first came to A League of Their Own?
Yeah, I mean. So I just a little bit about myself, you guys. I was an athlete. Yeah, it's always about me. I was an athlete growing up, and went to college and played. I picked the college I went to so I could continue to play volleyball. And
I didn't know you were a volleyball player.
Yeah, and then but I'm also track. I could have kind of gone anywhere, but I really did not want to give up that sport. So like team sports are huge for me.
What position you played? Did you set?
I was a setter. Yeah.
So I played volleyball. I took volleyball in high school. I took volleyball all through college. I played on club teams in college. I am not in any way saying I was a particularly good player. I love volleyball.
Right.
When I was in summer, it was summer camp or whatever. I would show up at the volleyball court at first thing in the morning, and I would try to play all day. And I played setter.
Yeah, you were setter too. Yeah, I would play in between school years. I would play in the summers. I would play beach volleyball, like nonstop.
I'm too fat and slow to ever play beach volleyball. It's much too hard. No, I used to play that too.
So in 92, when A League of Their Own came out, I was so attracted to the movie because of the team component.
Right.
Like it really truly was for me like a movie I had never seen that spoke to me so much.
On so many levels.
On so many levels.
Yeah.
To see a group of women playing the sport, the fact that it was women replacing men. To play, I'm really attracted to underdog stories, and this
Absolutely.
is like, in the 90s when I was like, I was in, high school, and then going to college, like that. So that movie spoke to me on that level, where it was like, okay, I've always felt like an underdog, and I've always wanted to like replace the boys, kind of thing, And then I don't know, I'm sure you guys do know this, but like, Tom Hanks. Had a couple of before League of Their Own, and the League of Their Own was kind of like his like he had Bonfire of the Vanities, and he had Joe Volcano, and so in like 92, like he coming out with the League of Their Own, it was like, oh, he's gonna be okay, like he, and I was a huge Tom Hanks fan,
too.
So and then you add Madonna to the mix, which like blew my mind that like Madonna was, doing the comedy in the way she was, and that she was pretty good and she fit the part, and I just loved every single second of it. The other thing is, I saw it in the movie theater, and I felt like I couldn't express it then as I can now because I didn't have the vocabulary to do so. But I was like, they were doing hard jokes. Like it was like a group of women doing jokes.
That's
like
a
doing
great point.
Bits,
Yeah.
and also having the heart, and also having like whatever. There's really just, I guess, 2 leads or 3 leads, but arguably you could say
But it feels like an ensemble. I mean, it feels like a
it
team.
really does, and it was so influential to me that I without a doubt, hands down, it was the reason I think I wanted so much to write Pitch Perfect. Like it was,
I totally see that
because Pitch Perfect to me is a sports movie.
Absolutely.
And then the other, there was just so much. I just can't tell you how much I loved it, and I felt like the ending. I know we'll get to it or whatever, but like the ending when just like the closing credits and hearing Madonna singing "This Used to Be My Playground," I could watch that like. I could watch those old biddies play softball all day long.
That was great. Yeah.
It's one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Me too. I bawl. I cry so hard. So I'm laughing and I'm crying, and I try to bring that into my work. Today where I feel like you laugh and cry on the same day.
It's so interesting to me that you're as a sports person at that age that you saw this, and then this led you into the movies and comedy and sports, making a sports movie, which I remember when I saw Pitch Perfect with you the first time you had that screening, I'm like, oh, it's a sports movie, which I love.
Yeah.
John, you remember how you first came to it?
Yeah, same thing in the theater. Went with a bunch of friends to see it, and I just
For real?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've been 21, 22 years old. Like I went to see it, absolutely loved it, and we all did. And we went out and I remember we went out and got food afterwards and just sat around and talked about how much we enjoyed it because it is. At its core, it's a sports movie. Does it appeal to women because empowerment? Yes, absolutely. All this other story, but the dudes could relate to it so much because it's a sports movie. It's an underdog movie. These characters, even though they're women, these characters on teams. The one who leads and can challenge the manager. The one that's like kind of out of it. I mean, one of the heartbreaking moments when she can't read her name on the board. Oh, yeah. I cry every time in that scene because she's so good at playing that part, that actress who plays it. It's just so good. But then you see how they all come together. And then, like Rocky, like Bad News Bears, they don't win the game. Yep. They don't win the last game.
Well, and it does have a complicated ending, too.
Exactly. Which is
even more complicated, I think, than those two, although I love those two.
Rocky is my all-time favorite movie ever.
Yeah. Really?
It is, yeah.
Well, you're not going to get any argument from
No.
It's one of our favorites,
The best romantic comedy I've ever seen. It is like one of the greatest love stories.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so sweet. But watching it also, the humor of it all, and then the progression of the story of these characters, and they don't cop out on the love story. It's there, but they don't cross that line that another scriptwriter or another person might cross and have them actually cheat, have her actually do the things that maybe somebody else who's a little less understanding of that situation could walk that tightrope effectively. And I just all around just love it's one I love to revisit and enjoy because the characters are great. And the John Lovitz stuff is hilarious, just all the way through. Really great stuff. And you never seen Tom Hanks like that. He put on the weight for the role. He's gutsy doing the long piss take. All of these things that you would have never seen from the guy from Big, the guy from all these romantic comedies in the 80s, stuff like to see him jump into something like this. I just embrace it all. And then to find out it was Shirley who directed, or Laverne rather, who directed it, I was like, Laverne? And so all of it just, for me, it came together at a time when I was able to really appreciate the film. So I always come back to it. Why I was excited that it was one of your choices.
So for me, it was like everything that I wanted to go see. I was a huge Tom Hanks fan from Bosom Buddies on. Went to see, The Man with One Red Shoe and every single thing. And I hadn't thought about it, but you're totally right. I can remember seeing Joe versus the Volcano and Bonfire of the Vanities and going, oh no.
Yeah, don't
what
worry,
happened?
Tom. We love you.
Yeah, and I was a huge Penny Marshall fan because for me, the formative TV shows were Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, and Mork and Mindy. That is I had to be home to watch those things. And I actually loved Jumpin' Jack Flash and watched it over and over again. I liked Big is an amazing movie. Awakenings is an amazing movie. And
Awakening.
I love sports movies. And John and I have talked before. We did The Naturals, one of our very first films we did on the Cine-Files. And that one of the things we've talked about is that baseball and boxing seem to make the best sports movies. And so here we have a baseball movie with Tom Hanks, directed by Penny Marshall. I was in, saw it in the theater, maybe on opening night, rented it over and over and over again in the early 90s. And I don't think I'd watched it in 10 years.
Wow.
So this is the first time. So it had that great thing of the familiar and fresh.
Yeah. If it is on a rerun, or if I happen to catch it, I'm sitting down watching, like wherever it is in the movie, I'm gonna watch it.
A couple of weeks ago, before we even decided on this, or 2 or 3 weeks, I was just randomly up in the morning. It was on Sundance HD, and I watched like an hour of it before I went to work. Because even my breakfast, because it was like, this is just such a good, sweet, strong,
joyful
movie, and set at a time when we as Americans like can look back and the Greatest Generation, that kind of stuff, that vibe of World War II.
It's so compelling, and
So I want to do just a little bit of pre-production. First, starting with Penny Marshall, who has a great story. Grew up in the Bronx. Father was a tap dancer and had a tap dancing school. Both parents are kind of in the entertainment industry. Obviously, her brother Gary is the first person to really make it. Comes out to Hollywood. Is writing for the Dick Van Dyke Show, which is among the greatest sitcoms ever done. And that's what brings Penny out. Penny grew up, she loved sports, played softball, she cut class to go to Yankees games all the time, comes out here, and of course, who does she meet while hanging out with her brother on the Dick Van Dyke Show but Rob Reiner, who she marries in 1971. And at that point, the first thing I saw her on was The Odd Couple, because she played Oscar's secretary on The Odd Couple. And then a bunch of stuff. She was actually up for Gloria on All in the Family. She was the other person they were going to take when they went with Sally Struthers. So she would have been acting against Rob Reiner when they were married. And by the way, so because we talked about Rob Reiner twice with Princess Bride and Harry Met Sally, is apparently Rob Reiner and Penny Marshall's house was the place to go in the mid-70s.
I believe it.
All the parties, all the cool people, from Billy Crystal, all the comedians, all the funny people, they all went to that house. And it's in the late 70s that she and Cindy Williams are guests on Happy Days. That leads to Laverne and Shirley. I watched Laverne and Shirley every single night for years and years and years. And then she directs some of the episodes of Laverne and Shirley. And then that leads her to direct movies. The first movie, Jumpin' Jack Flash, then Big, which is a huge hit. And massive. And at the time, the resistance to her in Hollywood is there are no women directors. A woman director will never direct a movie that makes $100 million. Of course, she's directed 2, Big and the movie we're talking about today, A League of Their Own, which starts because there is a documentary about the women's baseball teams, and that's what she sees and goes, I want to make a movie about this. Brings in Babaloo Mandel and Lowell Gans, who had written on the Laverne and Shirley show, which I didn't know that's where they came from. And they've written a bunch for Ron Howard, who also kind of has a similar lineage, obviously. And they're writing the script. They finish the script. The script goes to Fox. Fox goes, we love this script. Penny's off doing Awakenings. And they say, we can't wait. We're hiring a male director to do the movie. Just breaks her heart. I mean, she brought this thing in. Right. It got all the way to about to go to production. And fortunately, whoever that guy is, I do not know who he was, he drops out. She comes back. She's so angry at Fox. They get the movie away from Fox, bring it to Sony, and that's when they go into production. Yeah.
Love that.
And I just can't imagine the idea of of anyone other than Penny Marshall directing this movie. The biggest thing she wanted was every single woman who was in this movie had to be able to play ball.
Right. Yeah, they had to be able to throw and catch, and I love that. Yeah.
They had 2,000 women auditioning at USC with baseball coaches, and she was just like, it didn't matter who they were. Whoever they are, if they failed the baseball test, they're not going to be in the movie.
As if Gina Davis wasn't like talented enough, she could also do this.
Yeah.
She could also do this.
Well, it's funny. She was cast a little bit late. So she
could go to a baseball camp.
Exactly.
I really want this role.
Well, and this is like she'd won the Oscar for Accidental Tourist, and then Thelma and Louise is 91, which is a great movie.
Yeah.
And then this is 92, and she gets cast late, and she was like, I have to be the best player here, and I'm way behind everybody else. So she had to kind of do some catching up. Would you like to get in the movie?
Can I say something about Penny Marshall very
Certainly.
quickly? Which is, I think she might be the most underrated, least talked about director of all time.
I couldn't agree more.
Like when you start to go Big, Awakenings, by the way, both Big and Awakenings were like very influential to me in watching them. They stick with you. Her movies stick with you. And then A League of Their Own. And I think when people look back at A League of Their Own, and tell me if you guys disagree, it's like they think Gary directed it, or they think that Gary stood next to her and helped her direct it, right? Because he produced it, right?
Right. And he's in it.
Right. And I just like when I go back, like I've been asked in interviews, whatever, who's been very influential to what female director has been influential to me, and it's always Penny Marshall, and I talk about her a lot, and I think people are like shocked, they don't really know her deal, and when it comes, especially when it comes to comedy, like
absolutely,
like, and it's unbelievable. And I think, like, I don't mean to sound like name droppy, and this is from a long time ago, but I ended up on a boat with her.
Oh wow!
On New Year's Eve.
Was it a big boat or like a rowboat?
It was a big boat. It was like a yacht.
Rowboat.
I was in St. Bart's, and again, this is a lifetime ago. I don't hang with these fancy people, but like I was able to like watch her from like afar, right? Because I'm kind of obsessed with her in a way, and I, like you, watched Laverne and Shirley like
all the
crazy.
time.
I have a daughter named Lenny. I mean, like, but
well, we know what your
no
next
real
kid's
connection,
name's gonna be.
And I was on this boat. It was a big fancy yacht, whatever, New Year's Eve, and I was just like watching her talk to, like, she was talking to Lorne Michaels, and she was sort of like giving him shit, and she was just like, this guy used to not talk so slow, but he did so many drugs that he, like, now he talks like this, like everyone's doing an impression of him. I wanted to be able to talk to her, and I couldn't talk to her, and I was tongue-tied, and but like she was doing things back in the day that no other woman was doing. Yeah. And I wish that more people knew her story.
No, they focus on Catherine Bigelow, or they focus on these other female directors who laid some kind of groundwork, but they don't give enough credit to Penny. That's a very great point. And because right after League of Their Own, she does 2 or 3 other movies, and then she kind of drops off the face of the earth in terms of as a director. She's shown up occasionally on certain TV shows, done episodes.
Yeah.
But why isn't this woman directing like so many films? Because it wasn't like her films afterwards, The Preacher's Wife, Riding in Cars with Boys, or Renaissance Man. A lot of people have their defenders of those films.
I mean, like, you got Nancy Myers and Nora Ephron. It seems like that's what was talked about. But like Penny gets dropped.
Yeah.
I
think, well, and I think it's the people that come out of TV or something, like that they get boxed into sort of.
Yeah.
Ron Howard did that.
Ron Howard, it's true, but he doesn't get the respect that he deserves.
I think that like Gary just like absorbed all this oxygen that like that people just felt like. I don't think people know what she's done.
What's so weird to me about that? So first of all, the idea of someone standing behind another director, anyone who's directed a movie knows that can't be reality.
No,
like that's not how it works.
Yeah.
The second thing about it is that the truth is Gary's directed more movies. I like Penny's more.
Mm-hmm.
If you think of like just those first.
You're not a big fan of Pretty Woman and Beaches?
I totally liked them when I liked.
Wait, did he direct Beaches, or did you produce Beaches?
I think he might. Wouldn't it be funny if she was over his shoulder for Beaches? That would
That's
be brilliant,
what it is,
right?
Yeah, that's no one talks about. What is she
Why not?
helping him out with?
So the movie.
Yes, let's talk about the movie.
So we open at a nice suburban house, which is, by the way, shot in Sherman Oaks, just right over there. We've got some kids playing basketball. It's modern day, and we see an older woman, and it's so funny. I hadn't seen it in a long time. and what's so funny this is what I wrote down in my notes. I was like, man, that makeup on Gina Davis is amazing. It's not Gina Davis. It's not Gina Davis.
Still, to this day, I'm always like, show me the receipts. Show me the woman who played that role.
And
it's
Lori Petty. The old Lori Petty. You're both like,
it is amazing. Oh, it's like them. So it's Lynn Cartwright. Yeah. The only thing they are doing is that Gina Davis is dubbing her voice.
Right.
So
that's right. Yeah.
So it has that Gina Davis sort of delivery, but it's great casting. And we see that this woman, she's packing a bag in the house. Daughter comes in, throws her a baseball mitt, and there's this conversation about whether or not she's going to go somewhere. We don't know where she's going yet. And the daughter wants her to go, and she's like, it's not that important. It wasn't that big a deal to me. And the daughter's going, you have to go.
Mom, when are you going to realize how special it was? How much it all meant?
And the other thing we hear about is you'll see Aunt Kit. Mm-hmm. And these are the great little plants about what this is that's about to happen.
It's also great, dude, because it's a window into this character at this age is the same character we're going to see now younger, but the impulses are all the same. She does not want to take attention to herself. She doesn't want to make a big deal of what she did. She was good at it, but she never wanted to draw attention to herself because she was always about giving to everyone else. And so you see now, it's great work by them to lay the groundwork of this character right before you actually walk into the meat of what she's going to do in the movie.
Yeah, like selfless and subtle. Yeah.
Well, and I actually
still
think
ball busting.
a little bit
With the kids.
but she's just
with two boys.
Still having agency.
there's no question she's got some toughness to
Oh,
her.
yeah. She's
What's
competitive.
interesting about this character of Dottie is I don't think we ever really get exactly straight how she feels about baseball. I mean, we know obviously she loves it, but she's always a little reluctant at every single step, and what that reluctance means is kind of hard to figure out.
Yeah.
She had perspective the entire time, right? Like it's like she absolutely loved it, but she was able to pull out and realize that that's not all what life is.
Yeah,
right.
Which is in
Absolutely.
contrast to Kit, which is all it is.
Well, because Kit was trying to prove something, whereas everything kind of had come good to Dottie because she was just a natural at so many things that she did. So you're right perspective from the beginning, and also because she was always the best at it. So therefore she had perspective to walk away from it when she did, when other people would have like held on to the end, and other people did.
She had no chip on her shoulder.
Right, exactly. And that's so rare to find in any athlete that is that good.
Yeah.
So the daughter convinces her that she should go. She goes outside, and there's, as you said, this great moment with the two kids.
I love it.
Where she gives advice to the older brother of like, hey, take it easy on him. Let him shoot a little bit. The little younger brother comes up. She's advice to him is kill him.
Kill him.
Which is so great because this is like a story about sisters.
Yeah.
And here we have this moment with the brothers.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really nice connection. Mm-hmm. She drives off. We get a little montage. We head off to a baseball stadium, and all these older women are showing up. And now we're starting to see what this is. This is the induction of the women's baseball league into Cooperstown. Mm-hmm. And the women that we're seeing, a lot of them are the real women that played in this league.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And they're crotchety, which I love.
Yeah.
There's shots of them getting off the bus like.
Because an athlete, regardless of gender, but like they always have that mentality. They're never going to lose that mentality.
Yeah.
And it's like raw and real. I love it so much. And by the way, I will watch any movie that goes from different times, like different. Like
You're a sucker for the flashback.
Sucker, like Back to the Future, even Frequency. Like I
nice.
just love it so much. And so like I'm in from go.
What do you love about it?
I think it's just like the full story. Like I like anything where you know the real ending and you know the real beginning. And I feel like I've learned this lesson over and over again in anything I've written and whatnot. It's like if the audience isn't in on the beginning of a relationship, they just don't care as much. And so like when you show me like a movie like A League of Their Own, where it's like you show the whole the time, and seeing someone older and then younger, it's like you just make me care. I just care so much about you. You've let me in on your life.
Yeah.
As a comic book collector, there were always these issues that was like the special origin issue. I love origin stories.
Me too.
I love that
them
moment
so much.
I mean, I don't need to see Batman's origin in a movie again, but other than that, I love going back. And that's exactly what we're going to do, because as she looks out at these baseball players, we hear the music goes into reverb, and we go back into a newsreel. And we see Joe DiMaggio and Ted Williams, and that they're joining up to join the military in World War II, which of course is true. And I love the last line of the announcer, which is Harry Shearer, by the way, going,
Baseball's biggest stars say, "Look out, Mr. Hitler. The Yanks are coming. Not to mention the Indians, Red Sox, and Tigers. And they won't come back till it's over there."
That's just a great line. And then we go into, which is, I love this when movies do this, in the newsreel, but now we have newsreel footage of Gary Marshall, who plays essentially the Wrigley character, and David Strathairn, who's one of my favorite actors of all time. And we see them having a meeting, and they're coming up with the American Girls Baseball League.
Can you believe it? Girls.
Girls.
Are we going to do this for real?
Can we have like a rule that we all have to go back to talking like that? That's swell, fella.
I don't know, Pete. I couldn't slide in that.
And we're off to Willamette, Oregon. And we see someone warming up, and it's Lori Petty. This is my favorite thing of Lori Petty. I think.
That she's ever done.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she did play baseball. But she played baseball and softball. She was an athlete all through high school, and it shows. Yeah. But that doesn't help because her big sister Dot has given her some advice on what to do when she's at bat. She's got to stay away from the high ones.
She doesn't always listen to that advice.
No, she likes the high ones.
Yeah.
And she gets up to bat. What's the first pitch?
A high one, right?
Yeah, she swings at it.
Misses.
Second pitch, high one. Third pitch, high one. She strikes out. And I love the moment too. There's the first 2 pitches, and then she makes eye contact with her sister.
Right.
And I think that is a moment, if her sister hadn't given her that advice, she might have laid off the high one.
I know, right? She's just going against what her sister's saying.
Absolutely.
It's all ego. Kids, all ego.
Well, the third pitch is actually not a high one. The third pitch is right down the
you're
plate.
right.
Oh, right,
You're
right.
right.
She does lay off the high, thinking
You know
it's
what?
going to be a high one.
You're right.
And she gets tricked by the
It's a
pitcher.
strike. And then it's
Yeah,
a strike.
it's
It's
strike.
a called strike.
It's a called strike.
Yeah, you're right.
So she's super mad even more.
Right, because it had, and either way,
Diddler's door.
Super
She
mad
struck
even
out
more.
anyway.
because
Like,
clearly,
his level of madness throughout the
yeah.
entire
Oh, yeah.
movie is like she's like always mad the entire
Yeah.
time, and then until like maybe the very ending where she has like real happiness.
which is an old
Yeah.
lady.
Yeah.
Or
No.
when she
Before,
wins the
like
game.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think so. And the thing too is she is everything's Dot's fault. Nothing's her fault.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, and I don't know if that ever is really going to change for her.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know quite what happens to her. But now it's Dot's turn to get up to bat. Gets up to bat, hits 2 people in, wins the game.
Ha ha. Then you hear John Lovitz in the back. Which is the best.
John Lovitz.
What
Hey,
they do
Fatso.
so great is capture the real sister relationship in such a awesome way. And I have a sister who's 14 months younger than me, and
wow.
you know, so I really understand that dynamic. But it truly is like that is they just hit it the right way, and it's very authentic.
I totally.
Like you get the younger, shorter, not as glamorous
Yep.
sister who, you know, like, you know, she knows the truth. Kit knows the truth of what's happening there, but she's just like constantly fighting to try to change
That's what happens.
what it is.
That's what happens in this next scene where they're back at the dairy farm and they're walking and Kit's like going,
Kit, why don't you get your sister to teach you how to hit? Kid, why can't you be beautiful like that sister of yours,
What
Dot?
idiot said that?
No one. But I know that's what they were thinking.
No, it's not.
You ever hear Dad introduce us to people? This is our daughter, Dottie. This is our other daughter, Dottie's sister.
and then at one point she says that Mom and Dad should have just bought a dog.
Oh, Kit.
And she's spurred on by what that guy says when she's walking away at the baseball walk.
Right, she gets
the guy
heckled.
said, yeah, he gets heckled. She gets heckled. Basically, a troll community come to life. A fan right there is like, you should have. What did he say? He said something like, your sister bailed you out. You should go learn to hit some balls, learn how to bat, or something like that. Good thing your sister bailed you out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just like digging it in even further with
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And then there's this moment which I love, which is she looks up at Gina Davis like, why do you walk so fast?
Yeah, I love that.
and then Kit walks a little bit faster. Gina walks a little bit faster.
yeah.
And pretty soon they're
Oh,
having
right.
a
Yeah.
race.
Then they're having a race. They're running.
I love
Yeah.
that. That moment seems so honest. It's so real. And by the way, Lori Petty was way faster than Gina Davis, and she had to do the strange thing that actors have to do sometimes. How do I look like I'm running as hard as I can and still lose?
Still be losing. Yeah.
It's very fun to watch. Now we're milking some cows. You ever milked a cow?
Oh, have I?
Did you ever go like, because we went to elementary
grew up-
school, they would take us like trips to farms where they would teach you to do it. Did you ever do that?
No, I
I'm
have
so
not
picturing
actually.
little John Roca
Oh.
with the teat
Milking a
in his
cow.
hand.
Little
yeah.
tubby John Roca, yeah.
I grew up in the forest, and there were farmland all around.
Oh, right. Okay.
But my backyard was a forest, and I don't believe I've ever actually done it.
It's hard.
I have imperfect memory though, so I'm not sure. But yeah, I don't think I've done it.
But they're doing pretty well milking their cows, and who should walk in but John Lovitz? He's really funny in this movie.
He is funny.
This is I think my favorite movie that he's in.
He almost steals the whole movie, and he's in it for like 10 minutes.
Yeah,
It's incredible.
everyone in this movie is like you fall in love with them because of the nature of it. Yeah.
And he has maybe the best 40s voice, I think, of
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah.
His is
It's
great.
made for this.
It's just perfect for it. And he's decided that he wants Dot to come play baseball in the new league.
You ever hear Walter Harvey makes Harvey bars? You know, the candy.
Yeah, we feed them to the cows when they're constipated.
That's the guy. He's starting a girls' baseball league, so we can make a buck while the boys are overseas. Want to play?
Huh?
Nice retort. Tryouts are in Chicago. It's a real league, professional.
Professional baseball?
Mm-hmm. They'll pay you $75 a week.
Of course, he doesn't want Kit. Doesn't, and Dot's defending her. She's saying, like, look, she's a great pitcher. She didn't pitch today because she pitched yesterday, and he's not having any of it. And I love this moment, by the way. One of my favorite lines is,
We only make 30 at the dairy.
Well, then, this would be more, wouldn't it?
he's just really funny.
But Dot loves her sister and
She's fighting for her sister.
Yeah.
Apparently, by the way, Lovitz wasn't so much about the farm animals. He wasn't
shows.
He wasn't a big fan.
You mean in real life?
In real life,
Uh-huh.
and the farm animals were distracting. And finally, he just gets to the place where he's just going to power through and just ignore all the animals. And a cow like keeled over behind him and went into labor.
Are you kidding?
And he just kept playing the scene. Yes. They named it.
Do you see that?
No. It's. I don't know if there's even outtakes of it, but apparently they were filming. They named the calf Penny.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and Dot just says, "Well, I'm not going to go. I don't need to go. She doesn't need it." And Lovitz exits and chases him outside, and she wants to go. And like, please, no, I'm a pitcher. And Lovitz basically goes,
Now, look. I know the goods when I see the goods, and she's the goods.
and as he's saying that, he's patting her on the arm. And then he pats her a little more than that arm. He kind of pats it again. He goes, "Oh, you're a pitcher, eh?" I love that sort of that. You could see the wheels turning, and he said, and he makes a deal, which is, if you get your sister to go, you can come too.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, chickens are attacking him because Penny Marshall put grapes and all sorts of food in the cuffs of his pants, so the chickens keep coming after him.
Get these wild animals away from him. I love it.
Including when
Get these animals.
and so later on, we're having dinner, and Kid is trying to convince Dot to go, while Ma and Pa are sitting in the back listening to the radio.
By the way, that dad is way too old for them. Right? That
Way
dad's like
too old.
70s.
And then you're also going like, then how old are the ladies?
Right.
And they're like, it's supposed to be a time where I guess you went from your parents to your husband.
She's
Right,
already
of course.
married.
Right. Oh yeah, she's already married. Right. Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things that comes out at this dinner. Is she says, "Look, I'm married. My husband's overseas. I don't need to do this. Like my life is here." But Kit, she doesn't have. She wants to do something special.
But can't you just have this first? Just so you can say you once did something? Something special? Please, Dottie. I gotta get out of here. I'm nothing here.
And what do we hear at that moment that she says that line? Train whistle. And we know. Well, of course we know too, because otherwise there's no movie. Right. Otherwise they just gotta stay in the farm.
No, let's just hang here.
It's like, all right. Cut to Madonna and Rosie and all the other team going, man, why are we losing all the
I know. It feels like we need a pitcher and a catcher.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you both.
Yeah.
Do you think they told their parents? There's never a scene in the movie. The dude's like 75 years old. The mom's yelling at them because they're being too loud while he's trying to listen to his radio programs. Do you think they told
I
them?
think they told their
You
parents.
do?
100% Dot did.
Yeah.
She is a good girl.
And they trusted
yeah.
Dot. And
Yeah?
they were,
You take care of her.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think.
That sounds about right.
Lovitz is on the train talking to some salesman.
So great. Your job, I'd kill myself.
And he looks out the window. What does he see? He sees Dot and Lori Petty trying to look like she doesn't run as fast as Gina Davis, running up to the train.
She had to do training to be able to not run as fast.
Tough skill.
Very difficult.
And this
It's like fast. It's power walking.
They also, by the way, were frequently building up the pathways so that Gina Davis is always walking in a little trough. And Lori Petty's always walking on a little hill. Because Gina's tall.
She's so tall.
Yeah. I don't know how tall she is, but
I think like 6'1", I'm going to say.
Oh, really?
Or
Wow.
definitely 6.
Well, needless to say, they make it onto the train, and they're sitting with John Lovitz, and then we hear, we got to go pick up another girl.
Marla Hooch.
We cut in.
Do I love Marla Hooch.
I do too. Yeah. One of my sad things about the movie is don't understand why they married her off and made her leave the team. I wanted more Marla Hooch in this film.
Well, I think that's why.
I'm totally
it was
fine
to
with
give
her
her
marrying.
an arc, like, like that was her happiness.
I
and,
totally like the arc. I
Mm-hmm.
just want her playing in the last game. Because she's a great player, you
Yeah.
know, like it seems weird for her, like in your basic team rules, you know, team sports movie, she should be playing. And right now she's in this gym and she's just knocking the cover off the ball, going through windows. and dad is going, you know, telling her what to do, and now switched to lefty, and she kills the ball lefty, which is, by the way, Megan Cavanaugh. She's actually doing all that batting, because we don't know this yet because her cat is down in front of her face.
Right.
And dad is talking about her.
She's got an eye like DiMaggio.
And he explains that, you know, mom's dead and he's been raising her. And he's basically saying, you know, if she was a boy, I'd be taking her to the Yankees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We call her over, still haven't seen her face. And then there's the moment where she takes off her hat, and there's the reveal of her face. And here's the thing I was thinking about. This is your basic look at this unattractive person joke. I don't know that that used to be a normal joke, like the fat person joke, the ugly person joke, like that was kind of a normal thing.
Right.
And I would always, once I realized that people were actors, start to feel really, really bad. Like, oh, you're trying out for fat person number 3, who's going to have the fat joke. I don't think we do those jokes as much anymore, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there was a movie called I Feel Pretty that sort of
Oh, that's true.
did that. But for that moment, what I liked so much about it is I feel like it was based in reality, you know, like where I love it when someone is defying the odds or being so good that politics don't apply, you know, like, so like she's hitting like switching up, you know, left and right, and that you can imagine on a team that there would be a woman who, like, if you're talking about women in sports, the archetype is like the woman who's not attractive, who's amazing, and then that's why I think her arc exists.
I think and story wise, he's not going to take her because he wants pretty girls, which you wouldn't do if it was the male team. Is that these women have to hold up to a standard that doesn't make sense in most of sports, and I think it's super important that it's here.
Yeah.
By the way, Megan Cavanaugh, who plays this part, she was working at Ed DeBevick's when she got this role.
Chicago?
There was one in LA too.
Oh,
so I don't know.
Really?
I went to it when I was in film school. It was over on La Cienega. I don't know if she was at Ed DeBevick's in Chicago or here, but that was her
yelling at people,
just yelling at people, being rude.
Them loving it.
And as soon as Lovett sees her face, he's like, obviously not going to take her. And
you're listening to that. John Lovett's looking at someone's face.
I know, right?
Nope.
Yeah, his line is
so frustrating.
His line is,
You know General Omar Bradley?
Yeah.
Well, there's too strong a resemblance.
Oh my God.
terrible. And Dot and Kit's response is they put down their suitcases.
What a moment in 1992 of fucking empowerment, right? These two women go, oh, no. We are not going anywhere without her. She can play, and you're judging her but based on her face? Hell no. And that is powerful, right? Even more so in 2018, with everything that's been happening, these moments still resonate, and people get lost thinking it's just happening now. It's been happening slowly through these moments in these films, in this media, and you see it in this moment here too. This moment of empowerment. It's not a big deal. It's not made a huge deal. It just simply is, you know?
Yeah, well, Gina Davis is a powerful character throughout the entire film. Yeah. She doesn't let anybody push her around.
Yeah.
And she doesn't do anything in an aggressive way. She's just like solidly, this is what's right. I'm not going to go. And I love Dad kind of takes the blame. He's like, well,
I know my girl ain't so pretty as these girls, but that's my fault. I raised her like I would a boy. I didn't know any better. She loves to play. Don't make my little girl suffer because I messed up raising her.
Their relationship is really sweet.
It's so sweet.
Yeah.
It's so nice. Yeah.
And they have a lovely goodbye at the train station.
Yeah.
It's really sweet.
It's beautiful. Yeah. And to go back to Dot, like Dot is always in control of her own life and destiny and the choices that she made. That's what this movie does so well, is that Kit wants this, and we know everybody's wants.
Yeah.
And some are going for them and some have accepted what their lot in life is or whatever. But like for Dot, it's like knows what she wants and she goes for it, or whatever that is.
Yeah, I think I think she's comfortable in her own skin.
Yeah.
Like I don't think she expresses strong desire in the film, although she does believe in doing the right thing.
Yeah.
This is what is required at this moment, and therefore that is what I'll do.
And I know we're going to get to it, but like it's so refreshing that Dot and Tom Hanks's character, there's never romantic anything there. I mean, there's like hints that something,
right, hints,
and but it's that's what makes the movie so special is that she's like never goes there. Like you can have affection for the opposite sex and not have it be anything more than a coach to a player.
Well, and they're complete equals. There's never a power dynamic. He might try to have power over her. I mean, obviously, we're going to get there.
Which does initially, but then
there's no having power over that character because she's so comfortable in herself.
But it says what's happening in 1992 and still probably in 2018. It's just like you have to have like a rundown has-been guy.
Oh, that's a great.
And then
what a
the
great point.
best possible version of a woman in the sport in order to be
equal.
There you go.
Yeah, man, what a great point. We walk into Wrigley Field, and everyone who acted in this movie was emotional about this.
Been there many times from Chicago. Love it so much.
Yeah, I've never been in Wrigley Field.
What?
Wow. I've only been to Chicago once. I loved it. I was there for like a week.
You put that microphone down and you get yourself on a plane and you take
Wrigley Field.
JetBlue Mint and you land and go immediately to Clark and Addison.
So my parents
sit in the Ivy too.
When I was in high school, my parents I went off on a trip to Israel with my confirmation class, and my parents
Israel, but not Wrigley Field. Very interesting.
Yeah,
fascinating.
So you're saying you have a problem with my being Jewish? So my parents, they took a drive. My dad was a huge baseball fan. My mom was too, and they drove to every National League stadium in the country and saw a game over one summer.
Really?
Yeah.
No lie. 1995, I did that with my best friend Maurice. Right before I went back to college.
Are you serious?
We took a whole summer and we went all the way up the East Coast and went to every ballpark and then back down to every ballpark.
Did you see a game in every one?
A game in every.
Because it's hard to schedule. That's what my parents
We were essentially following the Oakland Athletics on their East Coast trip. We knew the players by the end of the East Coast trip, on all the players on the Oakland Athletics, because we were following their road trip through the East Coast. It was fascinating.
I just
so
realized
fascinating.
It's actually couldn't have been when I was in Israel. It was later. It had to be like 89 or 90. And because I just
You're just throwing Israel around like, oh, you
it
with
was
Israel.
because of the whole
All
Chicago
right,
thing.
Fancy.
I'm sorry I haven't been to Wrigley Field. I'm sorry.
I cannot believe it. Only because you're missing out on one of the most fun experiences ever.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, just occurred to me. It's a digression, but it's a good story. Is my parents are driving around and they had to go from Chicago to Seattle or something. So they're really in the middle of the Midwest. Yeah. And they'd been on the freeway forever and they got sick of driving on the freeway. And they're like, let's just drive on surface, let's just drive on country roads for a while. They're driving on a country road and my dad is kind of following, the sun and going, we'll go over here. And they come up with a sign and it says, this way to Field of Dreams. And the Field of Dreams field in Iowa, and they pull up and they go to Field of Dreams.
Wow.
Totally randomly stumble across
That's
it.
amazing.
But not you.
Not me.
Okay. All right.
If you build it, they will come. Didn't apply to you. You didn't want to.
No. Have you gone to Dodger Stadium? I mean, it's even
I have
closer.
been to Dodger Stadium.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Have you been to Fenway?
No.
Fenway is.
I haven't been to Fenway.
Really?
Yeah.
You haven't been to Fenway?
No, and my
Fenway.
husband's a
You
massive
call
fan.
yourself a sports fan?
Fenway's
Well, I don't know why. I've been in San Fran. I've been to that a lot.
AT&T?
Yeah.
That's where I'm
a
from,
great
so I've
park.
been there
Yeah.
a bunch.
Yeah.
Okay. But Wrigley Field.
Back to Wrigley Field.
Wrigley Field.
What movie were we talking about?
They walk in. Lovitz basically says, don't embarrass me. And they're shocked that he's now leaving. They've gained some strange affection for this kind of nasty man. I love his line as he leaves. He says,
Yeah, I'm just going home, grab a shower and a shave, give the wife a little pickle tickle, and I'm on my way. I'll see you.
some stuff only Lovitz can do, I think.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And now who do we meet but Rosie O'Donnell and Madonna? Let's take a moment for Madonna. I mean, I don't think you could express how big and important Madonna is at this time,
Huge,
1992.
Massive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it goes like it's Frank Sinatra, Elvis Presley, the Beatles, Michael Jackson, and then it's Madonna.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm going to throw something out here that you may completely disagree with. But I think A League of Their Own is the reason we still care about Madonna today.
Wow.
Wow.
That's a strong statement. I would like to hear arguments for and against this.
I'm 50%
You
serious.
might be right.
In that, what it did was show her as a human being who had a sense of humor. And if you find somebody relatable, you can have a record not sell.
Sure.
And like it was just so huge for her. I mean, like, I would argue like Lady Gaga with Star Is Born. It's gonna be like this is gonna be. It's so massive for her right now, and I would say it's more massive than what A League of Their Own was for Madonna. But like, when you can cross the line of acting and music, and people are like, "Oh my gosh, I can relate to you, and I can connect with you, and you're bringing me in," then they're fans forever. Like there's no fair weather fans, don't you think?
So I agree with everything you said about the relatability of the role that she plays, but I don't think that the people who aren't in, I don't think the people that were into Madonna look at League of Their Own. They're still looking at all the other
it's just
stuff.
my thing.
Yeah.
Like for me,
I love her in this movie.
For me, I love her so much in this movie, and this movie is so important, and so it was so special to me that I like. It doesn't matter what she does. Like if she ever, how she like Instagrams something crazy and then I'm like, oh well, she was in A League of Their Own. Like I kind of
you don't go. She
for
was in Truth or Dare.
No,
Oh God, no.
No.
But I think you make a great point because this is her best performance.
The wrong point.
Well, no.
I mean, she'd be the pop star she is.
But I think there's a point to explore here because she was a pop star. Of course, she came out in the 80s and she was about shocking and blah, blah, blah. But as she was progressing through Express Yourself, there was this idea that she was becoming a spokesman for women, right? She was pushing for this thing. And then she walks into something like League of Their Own, which is a female empowerment. And I bet she lobbied hard to be in this movie because she was trying to establish herself as an actress anyway, to have it coincide with her kind of embracing her political power as a female voice.
Right.
This seemed like the right combination, and she's
to
so
not be
good.
the lead, and she was super controversial. So this is why I'm saying I think she just it's the millions of people. She was so controversial that this movie brought those that were on the fence about her on her side. She connected with Rosie O'Donnell. They were like besties.
Yeah.
Rosie O'Donnell was beloved.
Yeah.
And so if Madonna did anything nuts, Rosie O'Donnell was like, she's great. She's just like a girl from New York or whatever, and it just made her like okay for a lot of people.
Yeah. I think I totally agree with all that. And I think career choice, this is an amazing choice for her because everything had been about her at the center of her universe for so long and focusing so much attention on herself. So to go take a supporting role in an ensemble kind of movie that isn't that standout is a huge choice.
Where she's being self-aware. Like I've been known as being promiscuous and I'm playing this promiscuous character
and in a fun way,
charming way.
And by the way, she was also not at that 2,000 people audition at USC. She was cast a little bit later. She did lobby for the part, I believe. She was heading off to Cannes for Truth or Dare, stopped in New York City, worked out with some baseball people to see if she could play.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and because Penny wouldn't take her unless she could prove that she could play baseball.
That's power.
Yeah, and the baseball power are just toughness.
I think that's both to say to Madonna, the biggest pop star in the world, you better learn to play if you want to be in my movie.
And
that's
of course,
power.
the baseball coaches said, "Oh, she'll be fine." Because she's a great dancer, and so she has great physical prowess. So that's how she gets cast. Rosie auditioned for Marla. That's what she was going to play.
Wow, I could see that.
And then she hits it off so well with Madonna that they come up with this part so they can have the two together.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And they're great together.
We don't have Rosie without this movie.
Right.
There's no.
Yeah. I think I'd seen her in front of a brick wall or something.
Yeah, she did stand up. She was part of that 90s stand up explosion.
Yeah.
So to see her do this was incredible.
And she's doing a little trick with flipping the bat. And they have really good, fun chemistry together. And up walks Kit and Dot. And there's a little bit of kind of who's going to be in this thing. And it's going to be one of us or one of you. And Dot, talks a little bit of smack. And Rosie turns around and throws a ball right at Gina Davis's face. And the barehanded catch is so...
Love a good barehanded catch.
Oh, it's awesome. And the way Gina Davis plays it is so like tough, just tough person, you know, like you're not messing with me, and gets immediate respect from Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah.
Hey, how did you do that? Excuse me. Hey, you caught that? Hello?
For the first time, you're seeing in a comedic way women decide who the alpha is, and I don't think you ever saw that really in a movie before.
That's a great point.
Is that they're like women were always the beta, the supporter, the wife, the whatever, the girlfriend, and here it's like, oh no, we're gonna fight it off, because then Rosie, her character, then accepts her as the alpha, and is just like, okay, yeah, we're a team, you know.
Well, that's such a great point. I never thought about it, but it's so, because for coming up with the lineup, for getting them out of the bar, for it's very, very clear that she is the alpha.
Yeah.
You're totally right. That is a great point.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Of course, not everybody thinks this women playing baseball is such a good idea. There's some woman on the radio
always
talking about the masculinization of women, dangerous consequences to home, children, and country.
They're still around.
And the most disgusting version of this is women playing baseball. How dare they play baseball? It's great. What's so sad is we're still here.
It's like it's decades earlier than when a woman can have a credit card by herself.
Yep.
Like it's just
wow.
Fascinating.
No, yeah, and we're still here. You know.
Yeah.
We see some tryouts. There's a good montage. We see Madonna sliding,
awesome.
Dot hitting. We see Dot in catcher gear. She makes a great throw to second base. We see all sorts of good, classic baseball montage. By the way, I have no evidence of this whatsoever. I think I think Penny Marshall loved The Natural. There are so many moments in this movie.
Wouldn't be surprised.
That are like homages to The Natural.
If she didn't love it, she probably studied it. Don't you think? Like if you're gonna have some comps of movies that, because the way prep for the movie,
the way the montages are structured, some of the, you know, and it's the exact same era,
right?
Yeah.
But the costumes and there's so much stuff that is kind of like a comedic version of stuff in The Natural.
Yeah.
And
you get that great 40s trumpet music.
Yeah.
All go through the montage.
Instantly puts you in the feel of
Exactly,
it, right?
absolutely.
Like there's just a feel.
Yeah.
And we see the list of the team, and Madonna, Rosie, Kit, Dot, they're all on the Rockford Peaches. And the coach is giving them a talk about what it means to be in this league. And there's this one woman, I think as you mentioned before, who's standing at those lists.
She's a Cusack.
Yeah, it's Ann Cusack.
Ann Cusack.
Shirley Baker.
Yeah, she can't read. That is a great moment.
It's heartbreaking. I met her at an Oscars party years ago, back when one of Mike Ross's ex-girlfriends had an Oscar party, and I was sitting next to Ann Cusack, and I told her, I want to say this to you. I know you're John Cusack, but I just want to tell you, in that moment in League of Their Own, my heart breaks every fucking time for what you do, because it's so believable, because you were so authentically lost, and you accept the help so well. You could see the tears. Well, it's just fascinating acting with no verbal thing at all. And it's just incredible to see that.
What did she say?
She was just like, oh my God, thank you so much.
That's awesome.
Like, I worked 3 days on that movie.
Yeah.
Okay, no, today, weeks
Still
together.
fighting for residuals. You know how actors are.
What does that mean? You know how actors are.
Yeah.
What do you mean, John?
It means it's all about the money, son.
So is Ann Cusack John Cusack's sister? No way. I
Ann
didn't
Jones,
realize
yeah.
that.
Yeah. There are a lot of Cusacks. There are like British
many,
Cusacks
many
too, like
Cusacks.
Cyril Cusack and all that Cusack. There's a whole contingent of Cusacks that are British too. It's nuts.
Where
I
was
a
this
Cusack.
movie shot?
So it's mostly shot in Indiana and at Wrigley Field. All the Oregon stuff is in Indiana. They built a ballpark for the opening game that's supposed to be in Oregon. That's in Indiana. And then they built a main ballpark for a lot of the playing. And then they shot, I think, a week or two.
Like the tournament end of the...
Yeah, and they shot like a week or two at Wrigley Field.
Wow.
Which, by the way, when they shot at Wrigley Field, Tom Hanks and David Strathairn slept every night in their trailers so that they could get up early in the morning and go play baseball in Wrigley Field.
Wow.
Which I just think is
I
awesome.
love that so much.
Do you though? Because you've never been. to Wrigley
I mean, do you
Field.
really
Do you really think it's
understand how
awesome?
special that is,
I mean,
Steve? 'Cause
So
it's
I'm
like-
able to understand things that I haven't been to.
I don't
For instance,
know,
I
that's
was never in the
true.
40s, and yet I can watch a movie about the 40s. This is what happens in
I
film.
don't know if I can really buy what you're saying.
Did you know I've been to Israel? Did I tell you that?
Oh boy.
Right. Yeah, yes. We know you've been to Israel. How long was your Israel trip?
6 weeks.
So
6 weeks?
Is that?
That's what all the little Jews do.
But was that your first time in Israel or no?
It's my only time in Israel.
Oh wow, how
Yeah,
was
just
it?
once. It's nice. I learned a lot.
Were people playing soccer or baseball?
Good question.
I don't think I ever saw anyone play baseball.
Yeah. Soccer though.
What do you think of the girls' baseball uniforms?
Well,
Okay, Ken.
I played softball till I had to pick between softball and track, and I can't imagine sliding in a skirt.
That is ridiculous.
I mean, it's hard enough sliding, and man can attest to this shit happening to you with
sure.
long pants on. You know,
You get the strawberry.
yeah, it's not great.
No.
But it was because they thought they wouldn't slide.
Right.
You know, like stopping them from sliding.
Well,
which
and this is one of the
crazy.
key things is what they want these women to be compared to what a male baseball player would be is totally different. And they show the women's uniforms and they all have a terrible reaction to it. And the next thing we find out is, by the way, you're not going to drink, you're not going to smoke, and there's going to be no men. And Madonna, May, she's
All
out.
the way, May.
And David Strathairn's line is,
Ladies, if you can't play ball in this, you can't play ball with us.
There's 89 other girls who have who
Yeah.
would play in a bikini if I told them to.
Yeah.
You get that kind of like.
by the way, David Strathairn, Gina Davis, when she was first starting acting, she was, I don't know, high school, college, she's at a summer stock, and the big actor at summer stock is David Strathairn. So she gets to act in a movie.
He's good.
Yeah.
He's one of my
good.
favorite, supporting actors. He's never been bad in anything I've ever seen.
I agree. Wait, now when does Tom show up?
Not yet. We're almost there.
That's fascinating because we're into end of Act 1.
We're
yeah?
at right at the end. Yeah, I'd say so. The ladies need to go off. I think before you play baseball, you should probably go to charm school. Maybe walk with a book on your head.
Marla has some trouble.
By the way, the direction.
Marla has some trouble in this little montage.
the direction of having like the one shoulder up.
Yeah.
That's from Penny Marshall. She just said, just always have one very stressed out arm. It's a very funny little montage that ends with, we go through how to drink tea, we're balancing books, we're learning how to walk, we end up getting fashion advice as a woman's walking through and going, oh, we're going to soften this, we're going to move that, we're going to do that. And then, of course, they get to Marla, and there's a great reaction.
Is Helen Haley the beautiful blonde?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah. She's great. That's played by Anne Ramsey. She like that again, like when you look at archetypes of who make up the team,
Totally.
of course that you would have like the stunning,
The beautiful
blonde,
the beauty
but
queen,
she
yeah.
also, in that same way that like Lonnie Anderson at WKRP is like, it's like she's smart and she's on top of stuff and like she's a good player
Yeah.
and she's stunningly beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's great. Well, that's one of the funny things watching this last time as I went, I kind of want to spend more time with the team. Like I'd like to get to know each of these people a little bit more. One more thing about the fashion thing with Marla was something that Penny Marshall said that I think is just great. It's something we've talked a little bit before about on the show is that one of the things that she does is she doesn't say cut quickly. Is that she says, particularly for comedy, there's going to be a moment and the instinct is, okay, I had my last line cut. It's like, no, let the moment sit. And the looks between Marla and the fashion person and all the reactions to that is because she waited about 20 seconds before she said cut. Wow. And you get all these great comedy moments because of it. Now we meet Tom Hanks. And we get to spend some time with...
the force acting.
And we were at Gary Marshall's palatial mansion.
Which is great.
Right.
I like Gary Marshall too. I think he's really funny. My favorite Gary Marshall of all time is Lost in America, where he is the casino boss.
Oh, really?
And it's so funny.
Oh, yeah. I love him in this and in Soap Dish. These are my two favorite Gary Marshall performances?
So I think I'm about to blow your minds because I used to play on Gary Marshall's softball.
Yes, of
team.
course you did.
And
with our friend.
Yes,
that's right.
And so I hadn't played in a really long time, and I had to go. Another friend of mine, Greg Botanic, he worked at the Falcon Theater, and so he played on the team, and they're always looking for ladies, and so I went and I had to go to the Falcon Theater and show that I could throw a softball.
You had your own tryout.
I did a tryout.
I like that you did tryouts at the theater.
At the theater, like in the parking lot, behind the theater. And so then they were like, okay, yeah, she can throw. So it was when I very first moved to LA, and I was the catcher. Because they just always put ladies who they're not sure about as catchers. And Gary had a thing where he had to pitch the first 3 innings of every game. Then after that, he didn't play at all. And
okay.
So, and he's like, I don't know how old he, probably in his late 70s at this point. How old was he when he passed?
I don't know. I don't know.
So because this is a long, long time ago, but he had, I
think he was born in the mid 30s.
So maybe he was like 75 or something, or 70, but he had like, stuff on his elbows and his knees, and he had like all these like braces and stuff like that. And I played for a long time. It had been a while since I played, but I certainly know how to throw a ball. And I just was so nervous throwing the ball to Gary, to this old guy. So I would like underthrow, and then this old man had to like pick up the, I'd like bend over and he'd be like, "Okay, to my chest. Hit my chest, aim for my chest," and then I would overthrow, and it was just a hot mess. But I just was like,
Did you settle down? I assume you settled down.
I don't know if I ever quite settled down. I really screwed the pooch there on that one. But it is when you bring up Gary in this movie.
Yeah.
I think about how like I had those games with this.
By the way, Tom Hanks, a little bit hungover.
Oh,
he's maybe a little worse for wear.
The great Jimmy.
Jimmy.
Yep. 6-time batting champion. Yeah.
What's really funny, by the way, so first of all, I don't think Tom Hanks looks like a baseball player really in any way.
Oh, okay.
He just doesn't look like a baseball player to me.
Fair enough.
And this guy was an amazing player. He had 458 home runs. That is a really,
like
really
the best player to ever play the game.
Right. I mean, this is a really, really good player. Unfortunately, a bit of a drinker. And I love the moment where Gary Marshall asks, because he's talking about giving him some managing job, and he says, "Let me be blunt."
Let me be blunt. Are you still a fall down drunk?
Well, that is blunt. No, sir. I've quit drinking.
And I love the conversation about it, where it's sort of,
You're a young man, Jimmy. You still could be playing. If you just would have laid off the booze.
Well, it's not exactly like that. I hurt my knee.
You fell out of a hotel, that's how you hurt it.
Well, there was a fire.
Which you started, which I had to pay for.
like, that's all good.
Yeah.
All good comedy stuff.
And also like a classic athlete who's
Right.
retired,
Yes.
done, obviously a drunk, because like what else do you do when you're retired at 28?
In that time,
Yeah,
right?
during
Because
that time.
nowadays you'd be a commentator, but
Yeah,
back
yeah,
then
yeah.
you're like,
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
what do I do now?
Yeah.
And he says, "I want you to manage a girls' baseball team," and a great reaction from Tom Hanks. And what Gary Marshall says is, you got a name, you just wave your hat and give the people a thrill.
Why don't we just get an organ grinder? I can hop around and do a little dance.
If your knees are up to it, go ahead.
And then there's this moment of like, here's a job, and we cut to the first game.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first game of the All-American Girls Baseball League.
And all the ladies are in the locker room going, "Where is he?" Because this is a big time, exciting ball player. One of them has a card. They want to get it. This is an autograph. Yeah. And he staggers in drunk. He looks at the card, or they look at the card to compare to him. Is that really the guy? And he walks right up to the urinal, and we have a very, very long pee.
Brilliant.
Which all the way made times.
Oh, yes, of course.
She times.
It is a brilliant pee performance from Tom Hanks. Here's how Penny Marshall did it, which I love. Tom was not, here's the only way I can say this. He was not in control of the flow. because she was standing with a bucket and a hose, and she would turn it on and off to tell him when he was starting and stopping. So he's listening and reacting to the sound.
So awesome.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
That is a brilliant, brilliant bit of directing.
Yeah.
Because it has to be fresh now.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
he's reacting to something that's going on, and it is a long, long pee. And all the reactions going around the room.
And it's totally quiet.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they're just looking at each other.
Just marveling at it.
It is so. This is again a small digression, but there was some sciencey podcast I heard, and it was basically, did you know that almost all mammals pee on average almost exactly the same time? It's about 21 seconds. Elephants take about 21 seconds to empty a full bladder. Mice take about 21 seconds. We take about 21 seconds.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? And of course, I assume that after this, you're going to want to check it out and see if that's true. I have checked it out. On average, it's around that.
I have many follow-up questions. How many times did you check it out to get an average?
Probably 10 or 15.
Wow.
I was interested. Look,
clearly you were.
I have two hands. One had a
So
stopwatch.
you had you were like.
I had my phone, and I went start, and then the other hand was aiming, and we saw what the time was.
Hilarious.
And apparently, it's because the size of the bladder and the pressure of the release, it releases a certain flow, regardless of the size of the bladder.
A penny being dropped from a building. And then it lands at the same time as a
feather.
As a feather.
You're right.
No, that's not actually.
Isn't that the science experiment you do?
Well,
when
if
you're
you didn't have atmosphere, they would fall at the same time. There's actually, have you ever seen that video where they drop a bowling ball and a feather in a vacuum?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
That is so cool. John's like, what the hell are you talking about?
No, I just remember Schoolhouse Rock when they did it off Schoolhouse Rock,
Fair.
the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Did you catch yourself, like, when you were timing yourself? Did you catch yourself cheating a little bit and like forcing it out quicker?
I really,
than you
really
usually
tried
would?
to make it a fair test.
Okay.
I couldn't clamp down,
Right,
Or,
you couldn't
or,
clamp down.
or force out.
You couldn't force out.
No, I tried to pee at
How
the
would I
normal
naturally
rate.
pee?
How would I naturally pee?
All right. I respect your choice, your analysis then.
So how long does he pee for?
I didn't time it. What a great question! I wish I knew the answer.
It's a minute 20.
It's a long
We're gonna
time.
do some research, and then when you edit this,
Get
you're
back
gonna.
to we have to put it at this time.
Oh my gosh, guys! So it started at 25 seconds in. Is when he started peeing, and he's still peeing.
Because there are a lot of false endings.
Yeah. 1:15. So 25 to 1:15.
Yep. That is a full bladder.
35, 45, 55. 05.
Oh, 25 to 1:15.
50 seconds.
50 seconds. Yeah.
He peed for 15 seconds.
That's double
for
the normal
50,
human.
50 seconds.
It's double the normal human.
Yeah. Or elephant.
Double the normal everything.
I will find a way to cut exactly what we just said in, because that was really funny.
Perfect.
One other thing about this moment is that the actual American Girl League baseball players were on set a lot. They were hanging out all the time. They
loved it.
They loved it, and they made great friendships with all the people on the movie, and they loved everything about the movie except this scene.
Oh,
They
really?
hated this scene. They said it was inappropriate, that this wouldn't happen, and this was not right for them.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's a really funny scene.
Inappropriate.
And yet Penny was like, "It's got to be in."
and Penny is right. And then after he finishes peeing, the woman with the baseball card hands it to him. He tears it up, walks out. They're going, we need to get a lineup. And, who's going to play first? And there's an argument. And Dottie basically says, how hard can it be to make a lineup?
Hey, guys, come on. How hard can it be to make a lineup? Come on.
Oh, yeah? Well, why don't you do it, Oregon?
Me?
Yeah, you.
All right, May, center field, lead off.
She's good.
And this is what your point is that, yes, she's immediately the alpha.
Yeah.
It's time to start the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the announcer.
It's
Squiggy.
Squiggy. That's right.
It's my second born if I were to ever have one.
No, I feel a little bit bad for you. Is that a boy or a girl, Squiggy? Little Squiggy. Little Squiggy.
It's got to be a girl. Like Lenny's a girl.
There you go.
Well, it doesn't got to be a girl. I mean,
you haven't had it
It's
yet.
whatever is miracle to
Okay.
me.
And Jimmy Dugan does what he's required to do, which is he steps out of the dugout, he waves his hat, and mutters under his breath, "Eat shit and kiss my ass. Kiss my big hairy ass." And then he goes back in. Out comes the Rockford Peaches, and the crowd laughs.
Are they laughing at us?
Yeah, they're laughing at us.
They hate us. Just keep smiling.
Hey, Glamour can you throw the ball?
And they just have to keep smiling. It was a rough moment.
I like that she did this. I like that she did, because, you have to constantly feel connected to these players and cheer for them. And if you put them in a situation where as soon as they walk out, the crowd is cheering for them, then what's the obstacle?
Yeah,
What's
no
the
story.
challenge?
You
Right,
know,
exactly.
they're not underdogs. They're
So smart.
yeah.
So smart.
I literally was in class because I was teaching directing class today, and literally saying that look, when you're a writer, you are God. And you are not supposed to be a nice God. You are supposed to be an angry, mean, vengeful God who's going to not let your characters get what they want. That is the point. Nobody wants to see your movie about people happy and hanging out and having a good time. It's not a good movie.
So when the girls come out, right, you hear the fans are not happy and everything's happening with the anthem and they're whispering to each other, really nervous. But then this one guy is out there being louder than the rest. He's literally on top of the dugout, where you later in life will see mascots do stuff to get the crowds going. He's actually sitting out there as a dude, and he's making fun of the women and making fun of them throwing. And then he pulls up his pants to simulate their outfits.
Better look out, I might break a nail.
7 for shortstop, number 1.
And all the women are like just taking it, and you can see in their faces that they're just like really hurt by what he's doing. And of all people, it's the beauty queen, the Georgia beauty queen, who takes that ball and just hits him with the ball, and it's great. And there's no reaction. Like everybody else just laughs. And in that moment, I think the crowd then is now on their side because they're willing to fight. And it's so great.
Yeah, it's a great moment.
Yeah.
So we go into the game. Dottie is up to bat, and the announcer goes, "Well, what's Jimmy Dugan gonna do at this moment?" Looks over, what's the signal gonna be? And Jimmy Dugan is scratching his balls, which is some kind of signal. And Dottie hits a home run.
Yeah.
I love the announcer. You got to have good announcer lines. And his line is,
Oh, baby, shit the cream cheese out of that
and of course, then he gives the credit to Jimmy Dugan, master strategist, for having her swing away.
Because they don't know what they're looking at.
No.
They don't.
Right.
Right. Like
Well,
they can
a
only
woman
go with
can't
what they
possibly-
understand. So
yeah.
it's just like, they're only out there because a man put them out there, and they're only able to do what they're doing because someone is directing them to do that.
Right. Of course, a woman couldn't possibly have come up with any of this thing. That doesn't compute. Later on, Jimmy's pouring some water on his face. Kid wants some autograph. Strathairn sends him away and comes up and says,
Nice piece of coaching, Jimmy. I especially like that move in the 5th inning when you scratched your balls for an hour.
Well, anything worth doing is worth doing right.
which is a fair point. And Strathairn really goes at him. Until you did that, I couldn't tell if you were drunk or dead. And I love that Strathairn is the advocate for the players. He's fighting for them.
Now, Jimmy, you have some pretty good ball players here. If you'll only give them a little bit of your...
Ball players? I haven't got ball players. I've got girls. Girls who want to sleep with after the game, and I want you coach during the game.
And then he spits on Strathairn's shoe. It's just nasty.
Yeah.
And again, this is the thing, is he has to start off nasty because we have to have somewhere to go.
And he's what the point of view was. He's articulating the point of view of how everybody felt during that time. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's why you cast Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
Because if you cast,
he's the only one that can get away with it.
Exactly. If you cast anyone else, the audience is immediately done with Jimmy Dugan. Don't care about that resolution or the arc. Yeah.
And it ends with Strathairn asking, "Jimmy, if we paid you a little more money, could you be a bit more disgusting?" Tom says, "Well, I could sure use the money."
You know what's so interesting, not to constantly be harping on like what's happening now in 2018 and how all these things still apply.
We never do that in the Cine-Files.
But it's like the only way to get people to see the point of view that they've had such a hard time seeing is if you do it through comedy. Yeah. And so you've got this very light, very fun, very emotional, like beautiful, fun movie. But the amount of like the shift in a person's point of view or like society's change, like when he says that, like the girls are who you sleep with, those girls are who you sleep with afterwards, after you've played. and you've got another man saying those are good ball players. I mean, just that is like already like helping shift the narrative. And it's just like it gets minimized because it's a fun movie. And you know, again, like I it's just been so important to me because I like watch that movie and I'm like, they're articulating the things I have been feeling or felt as an athlete. You know, like again, going back to volleyball, like we wore bun huggers,
right,
and long sleeve.
I never wore bun huggers.
but
I would have looked good.
Girls do, you know,
no,
and it was
crazy.
like, why, you know, like it was in the 90s and the early 2000s, and you're like, and even now when you look at like the D1 schools or whatever, they still have like really like scantily this gets into like Serena Williams and tennis and like things aren't changing.
Well, and the thing you said that is so important is that you have to articulate the viewpoint of the mainstream at the time.
Yeah.
Is that you have to have Tom Hanks articulating the prejudice in order to have
fight
so you
against
can
it.
explode it.
Yeah,
it's so fun. I'm not sure if I'll put this in, but I literally had a question to ask you at the beginning that I kind of skipped over because we were talking about other stuff. But the question was, what do you think is more able to deal with changing the way people think, comedy or drama? And it's just so funny that you started talking to basically exactly that point.
Well, you know, like I didn't want to make it about blockers, but like something as heavy as like young women having sex and just all these like, you know, these views of like women not having agency of their own bodies and, you know, they should stay virgins until they're married. Like these very like at their core traditional, very religious, control, dominate. Like it was important to me to show the movie with blockers that like through humor you can get out different messages to make people stop and think. And like one of my favorite lines in the movie is when Kayla says to John Cena, who plays her dad, "Why is sex so bad?" And he's like, I don't know, you know, like, cause it's such a loaded question and he just wants to be a good dad to her. And so I hope that people, you know, get something from it. I'm hoping that young women are able to have conversations with their fathers they've never been able to have before.
Well, that honestly, I'm really glad you brought up blockers because that's why I was so excited about doing this movie, because I think there's a direct connection, a direct lineage between League of Their Own and Blockers, because League of Their Own is taking a traditional male genre, which is the sports movie, and translating it for women in a way that forces you to look at women's roles within society and look at your own prejudices. And Blockers is taking a traditional male genre, which is the teen sex comedy, and transforming it for women's perspective and forcing you to look at things. By the way, I again, it's a digression. I go every year to this family camp, and every year they have lecturers. And this year there was a lecture dealing with talking to your kids about sex and about body image, about gender transitions, gender identity, all this stuff. And it was a great, like, in-depth conversation about how to deal with people who are struggling with these things. And there's a moment in it where she put up negative images in media as things that were destructive. And one of them was from Mulan, and it was the ghost ancestor saying something about being a cross-dresser. And I said, excuse me, I don't think that, I think you're wrong, because you have to articulate, you have to have that ghost say this thing to articulate the negative thing that Mulan is entirely fighting against. If you take that out, Mulan doesn't work. And she said, well, I don't really agree, blah, blah, blah. And then I told her she needed to go see Blockers. And she has said, I would never see that movie because it's, you know, it's all sex. And I was like, no, you don't get what that movie is about. And I told her how particularly the first gay kiss of the girl, I'm totally bawling because it was such an empowering moment. And so maybe, you know, in a very small way with a bunch of people up in the Sierras at a weird summer camp.
Oh, God bless you.
A couple of people got it.
That'd be great.
We're in a newsreel watching our girls play ball. It's really weird.
Helen Haley has not only been a member of several championship amateur teams, she's also an accomplished coffee maker.
They're making tea, and the way they have to frame these women, it's so bizarre.
Then there's Pretty Dottie Henson, who plays like Gehrig and looks like Garbo. Fellas, keep your mitts to yourself. She's married.
Oh, man.
Don't you hope that, like, that you are thinking progressively so that when you look back 30 years, 30 years later, and you look back at this time that you're like, no, I was able to see the forest through the trees or whatever.
That was one of the good ones.
Yeah. Like, I got it. Because so that you're not caught saying, like my husband talk about this. We talk about this all the time of just like, what's the thing that like you'll look back and be like, oh, cringeworthy. Like why?
Yeah, it's a scary one. Because we're all still going to be products of our time as much as, and there's times where I've moved a little slower than I had to catch up a little bit, like we all do that. I hope I haven't done it on the mic. That's the scarier one is like the public thing.
The thing is, you'll look back at a movie and you'll hear it, and like we look back at League of Their Own, and we're like, "Oh, that's crazy," but that was they were product of their time. We could see the distinction. We know how it was back during that time period, and then you'll see some movie and you'll be like, "I don't understand. What's the difference? Like, what am I not getting?"
Right.
You're like, that seems like perfectly normal.
Well, one of the big battles Steve and I had one time was in Blade Runner. When Harrison Ford pushes Sean Young against the wall. And in my mind, that's always been a noir staple, that the man is just a little rougher on the woman in that genre. But Steve's like, no, that's like that's assault, almost rape. And I have now started to hear this from a number of people about that scene in Blade Runner. And I would have never considered it because they end up together and it's just like maybe he had to break through her walls or her defenses, but not physically. And so it's just fascinating because it took doing that with Steve for me to like go like, man, I didn't think of it that way. And I've never seen it that way. And then when more and more people talked about it, especially when I caught with a few women the other day, we were talking about film, sci-fi and stuff, and they brought that scene up and I sat back and it was like this, because I just didn't think about it in that way at all. It's just fascinating,
I think
you hold on to those
structurally in that movie, it is intended to be exactly how you took it.
Yes,
that is what Ridley
that's why
Scott's
I always
is.
go with it. But
and to me, it's always that it's like he calls her an it like 2 scenes before.
Right.
It's all the stuff leading up to that makes it so. Anyway, but that is a digression.
But that's a digression.
So there's one other moment in the newsreel we should talk about, which is that they have all these kind of sexy close up, interesting things with people, and then they have the shot of Marlo who shoots a good hitter from very far away. Oh, one other thing, by the way, Rosie O'Donnell does a great take 2 balls and throw them to 2 catchers. She was taught that by one of the original American Girl Baseball League players. Yeah. Evelyn introduces herself to Jimmy and talks about her son and begs to have him on the bus. And we cut, and she says he's the sweetest little boy. You're gonna love him. Cut to crazy kid on the bus.
I love
in a sailor outfit.
Stillwell Angel.
Stillwell. Almost makes them crash, covers the bus driver's eyes.
But this is a weird moment, isn't it? Like the bus driver quits, leaves the bus, starts walking.
Walks in the middle of nowhere.
But the lady in charge of them runs out, confronts. He takes a pile of dirt and throws it in her face.
Right in her face.
And I remember when I saw 92, like I was like, oh, geez. Because she's made to seem as this kind of stuffy guardian of girls.
She's like the chaperone.
But in 2018, you're like,
it's right. Well, and this is where like that, because this movie's on sort of it's warm and heartfelt and it's silly comedy.
Yeah.
And this, I think, is in the silly comedy place where it's like, oh,
yeah.
That is weird.
Yeah. But also great that, of course, one of them has a kid. Like,
yeah, of course.
Right.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I'm almost surprised that there's not more that have children.
Well, all the way May. We don't know what's happened with her.
She left 6 kids to someone.
And while she's getting dirt thrown in her face, they're chasing Stillwell around. And finally, Evelyn solves the whole thing by offering him another chocolate bar. Perfect parenting. And there's a great moment, by the way, where everyone except Dot is talking about going out to some bar or something, and they're all smoking cigarettes, and up walks Miss Cuthbert, the chaperone lady, and they all suck in their smoke, hold it. She moves inside the bus. They exhale, just keep talking. And she goes to talk to Jimmy Dugan, tries to wake him up.
Mr. Dugan!
What is it, baby?
And there's a big, long kiss. And then a big, loud scream as they both realize what has happened. And he wakes up in that drunk waking 100% up.
Oh, God, what the hell is going on? Why we stopped?
Lou quit.
Who is Lou?
And then he goes outside and yells at them to all come on the bus. And Tom Hanks does the most perfect gibberish yell.
Hey, come on, you girls. We got dinner.
What?
Get on a bus.
What did he say? Is that English?
He's so good. And he gets in the driver's seat and is about to start driving, turns back to Miss Cuthbert.
By the way, I loved you in The Wizard of Oz.
Terrible. And later on, she's sick because apparently they kind of poisoned her so they can make it out to go to this club. And we end up at the Suds Bucket.
The Suds Bucket, son.
It's totally fun seeing Madonna dance in this style, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of what you said before, is that she's playing an ordinary person who is a good dancer. It's really, really fun. And there are two guys kind of back and forth with her, and she's dancing with both and flirting with both. And outside, up pulls a car. I will call it a jalopy with Dottie and a young kid driving.
Oh, God.
And she wants to go inside, and he says,
What's your rush, doll, buddy? What do you say we slip in the back seat and you make a man out of me?
Yikes.
Exactly.
I like how they didn't sit in that stuff for too long. You know, like it's
with
not
the
what
kid or
just like with like it was mostly about the team and their teamwork
Right.
and winning games. Like they showed these sides, but it wasn't for super long, right? Like it would be like, this is what we're up against, but we move on, you know, like
Right.
whatever obstacle it is, we kind of fight through it.
Totally. Well, it's also I had to get Dot from here to there.
Yeah.
And I have a 3-line joke moment.
Right.
And that gets her inside.
Right,
You know,
right.
rather than
Yeah.
just have an empty moment where she comes into the bar.
Yeah.
So, I want to say something. In this scene with May, Eddie Mecca plays the guy she makes out with. Eddie Mecca was Carman Ragusa from Laverne and Shirley.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's
the
Karma.
big ragu.
Yeah, big
The
ragu.
big ragu.
I go from rags to riches.
Had to get a
Yeah,
cold
that guy.
shower.
Yep. He was the one who was making out with her there. And I bet she was like,
entirely forgotten about the cold shower joke. That's
oh, yeah, that's right.
I don't flood.
They would like kiss for like a second, and he'd be like, "I gotta go.
Yeah.
Why
So-
don't you go take a cold shower?"
So, and the reason Dottie's come is not because she wants to come to the club. It's that Lowenstein is on his way here. That's the Strathairn character, and they got to get out of here. And everyone's like, okay, thanks. And she counts everyone, and there's one person missing because Marla is singing.
Yeah. Before karaoke was karaoke.
Yeah.
Some others I've seen might never be.
What did you do to her? Not that we just gave her a dress and a lot of liquor.
It is a performance.
Oh, yeah.
And there is a guy in the corner named Nelson that she is singing to, and he knows she's singing to her.
I'm singing to Nelson, ain't I, baby?
You sure are.
It's just great. And there's also the great moment with the band leader that just, palms his face. Yeah. Then we head off to a church, and we know that May's in the confessional with a priest, and it's just kind of a joke about
Long list of things.
a long list of things she's done, and the priest comes out looking pretty stunned. And the only reason this scene exists is it was an improvised scene. Was they got shut down somewhere else. They had the church, and Penny Marshall said, "Get me Madonna and Rosie O'Donnell and dress up a guy up as a priest," and that's how this came up.
Wow.
It was just a cover shoot because maybe it was raining somewhere or something.
That's like it's so like no one ever knows those things that happen.
Yeah.
Like that really great directors, they don't know all the obstacles, and like a great director does that. Like
You gotta
goes
roll
like,
with the punches.
get me this person, let's put this on, and let's just do it. And to make magic out of something that you weren't prepared for, that's an amazing. That's
Yeah.
Because
people don't get it.
because stuff's not going to go right. Things go wrong when you're directing.
Do you ever hear like other people's commentary and stories about your production? Go, no, that didn't happen. That wasn't on my set. That didn't happen. Like they tell the stories because I always wonder when when we do the show, Steve does all this research, but I always wonder sometimes a director listens and goes, "That's completely wrong. That never happened."
Oh,
blah, blah,
that's
blah.
interesting.
Have you ever had that?
I haven't had that.
Okay, so you
but I've definitely had stories where I go like, this person was supposed to be in the scene and then ended up not in the scene, and I had to like email another actor to come into the scene, and I had to rewrite. Like
wow,
a whole
on the fly,
the scene on the fly, day of.
Wow.
Like wrote this scene, like changed everything, and then so in Blockers, like I ended up rewriting a new scene that end up being one of my favorites, and then sort of like just doing like a complete overhaul of a whole section. Of no fault of anybody's. It's just how things happen, you know? And there's kind of a rush that you get. Like, I imagine like Penny Marshall was just like, all right, I'm going to do this. And then, and I felt that way on that day. And I look back at, maybe I like the scenes more because I knew how hard they were.
Well, that's the hard thing to separate. I mean, sometimes there's just more juice on the day because everyone's buzzing with all that feeling. And then sometimes, then you got to get in the editing room and go, okay.
Yeah.
Take all that out of my brain and does this, is this working? Is it playing or is it not?
Yeah.
By the way, I do have one that's exactly what you described on a movie that I did, and I cannot tell the story, but an actor told a thing about something that happened that was entirely incorrect.
Right.
Where they took credit for something that wasn't there.
You got to be kidding.
And they told it at a film festival, and they told it at the premiere, and I had to go, that was great, thank you. Because I can't contradict them.
Right.
And it was like, it was my thing that I had done, not that they had done. And it was like, okay. And I knew that like that if the movie had been a movie that was successful, that would have been a story.
Yeah.
You know, but it was not true. You know, so, you know, I'm sure there are some.
Are you showing me an actor made up something?
Yes. No, what I'm actually saying is that the actor perceived, I think this person believed
legitimately
that was
believed.
True.
Oh,
I think they framed the event in such a way because it was
interesting.
very close to what had actually happened.
Right.
You know, and I had the people who the DP came up and the other actors came up to me after this and they're like, that was you. That wasn't, that didn't happen. But, you know,
that's
what it is. And so now we got just Jimmy all alone doing some batting practice. And this is, by the way, I think what Tom Hanks did all the time in Wrigley Field was get up and just do batting practice. So it's the next game. Jimmy's still not involved. May is up to bat. Dot gives her some signals. She hits a triple, slides into third, and someone makes the joke, no wonder they call her all the way May. And now Jimmy kind of perks up. He starts to notice, and Marla goes up to bat. And Dot gives her a signal to bunt. And Jimmy goes, what are you, stupid?
What are you, stupid?
Somebody's got to run the team, Jimmy. You know, someone who actually watches the games.
You gonna squeeze bunt with our best hitter? What's the sign of swing away?
And they start to argue, and his line, always sensitive, is stop thinking with your tits. And he calls out to the batter and gets the signal, and he gives the signal for swing away. Dot gives the signal for bunt. Marla does this great step in, step out, step in, step out.
Pretty classic, awesome comedy scene,
It's
right?
a
Like
really
we're
well-constructed
just like
scene,
taking the game of giving signals and then heightening that game.
Yeah. And then finally he goes,
Hey, who's the goddamn manager? I am!
Act like it, you big lush.
he gives the signal for swing away. She steps back in, she nails the ball. And he cheers and he looks back at Dot and there's a smile.
Dot doffs her cap.
Yeah.
In a respect.
Like, of course, he at the end says, I still say you're not ball players. It's not quite there yet. But it's also, you see where this movie's going to go. This is the direction that we need to go in. You know, it's like, because he's the last member of the team. I mean, it's like,
that has to come aboard.
It's like in Bad News Bears, like you have to get Kelly Lynch at some point for the team to be complete, you know? Like we got to get that. Or in Hoosiers, we got, what's his name?
You got to get Jimmy Chitwood.
You got to get Jimmy Chitwood.
You got to get
Jimmy without Jimmy.
For sure.
Yeah, the last member of the team is Jimmy Dugan. Yep. We're on the bus. May is teaching Ann Cusack to read out of a dirty book. The one other cool thing that happens on the bus is that Rosie has the picture of her boyfriend, and that basically this guy has treated her terrible, and that all boys ever around her thought she was weird or strange because she could play baseball.
I believed him too, but not anymore, you know? I mean, look it. There's a lot of us. I think we're all right.
And then she tears up that photo and throws it out the window.
I love that.
That's a really lovely moment. We're back in a game, and now Jimmy is involved.
Say, Evelyn, can I ask you a question? You got a moment? Which team do you play for?
Well, I'm a peach.
Well, I was just wondering, because I couldn't figure out why you would throw home when we've got a 2-run lead. You let the tying run get on second, and we lost the lead because of you. Now you start using your head. That's that lump that's 3 feet above your ass.
And she starts crying.
What are you doing right now? It's so He's so like, it's so foreign to him. He doesn't even know how to deal with this. It's brilliant.
And this is one of those in the list of the 100
Iconic.
greatest iconic comedy lines. This is up there with "I'll have what she's having," and and he is really funny.
Are you crying?
No.
Are you crying? Are you crying? There's no crying. There's no crying in baseball.
I love the Tom Hanks "I cannot control my anger" upset.
Yeah.
He's like
trying to so hard.
Yeah.
I mean, like his real struggle. But if you were going to like do a tagline of the movie of like putting a bunch of women together on it, the tagline would be "There's no crying in baseball." It's like you'd put you're going to expect women to be emotional and all that kind of stuff. It's so, I love it so much.
It's a great monologue too.
Rogers Hornsby was my manager, and he called me a talking pile of pig shit. And that was when my parents drove all the way down from Michigan to see me play the game. And did I cry? No! And you know why?
No.
Because there's no crying in baseball. There's no crying in baseball! No crying!
Well, and Tom Hanks's manager called him a talking pile of pig shit.
Yeah.
Did I cry?
And that's when my parents came to see me. And did I cry? No. You know why? Because there's no crying in baseball.
But what a great message to the ladies watching this movie, where you're like, don't cry at work, don't cry, like be stronger, be tougher, be like, don't have. There's an expression in the Dutch have, which is like, don't have long toes because it's easier for you to step on you. Yeah, so it's like, don't be so sensitive, like just be a little stronger.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a coincidence that I named my daughter Evelyn with a nickname Lenny, and my love for this movie?
Are we supposed to answer that? I
don't know. Like, I'm just realizing it now, where I'm like,
don't you
wait,
know the
Evelyn
answer?
is.
You know the answer.
Also, what's really interesting is I wrote a 30 Rock episode where I named Scott Adsett's daughter Evelyn.
Huh.
And I don't know. I just thought Evelyn Russell was like a cool sounding name.
Have you ever told your daughter that there's no crying in something?
I'm going to. Halloween costume idea.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh my God. I love it. Can she carry around a little tiny Stillwell?
That'd be amazing.
Oh
my gosh. Not this year, but next year.
Next year,
what
that's
we're
what
doing.
it's going to do. All right. There's another game. The stands are empty. And this is the problem. David Strathairn comes in. He's like, we got a reporter from Life. We have to get people excited. We're dying. Yeah. And of course, the Life reporter wants to do a story about Dottie. She's the queen of diamonds. This does not please Kit. And they're making part of the story that she wouldn't come without her kid sister, which makes Kit even less happy because it makes her feel even worse about it. And what he's asking is he wants something spectacular, something to get people to not close down the league. And the basic rule is no profit, no product. And Madonna has this moment of, what do I do? Go back to taxi dancing? I'd never heard the term taxi dancing. Is that a term?
I haven't either.
Oh yeah, that's something they did in New York. The women.
What is
Are you familiar with taxi dancing?
Yeah. I'd read about it.
You're a guy who's into taxi dancing?
It's not that. It's basically women dancing in the streets for money.
Oh, in the
so they would dance. They would turn the taxi.
I think I forgot that it was even in that movie.
Yeah, they would turn the taxi lights on and the women would dance it.
Yeah, I'd never heard that.
Learn something new every day.
That's awesome.
And guys with it's demeaning work.
Is it on the deuce?
Should
question?
I don't believe it.
If it didn't happen, it's on the deuce.
Unfortunately, this game is not very exciting. And then finally, there's a pop fly, and Dottie goes for it. She goes out.
Of all the people, Dottie.
She drops into the splits and makes a catch.
She's under it. Uncle Elmore's socks. What did she do?
Thank you. The one who's supposed to be most authentic. She does this.
She does what? Because throughout the whole movie, Dottie does what's necessary.
Exactly.
That is, she's like, this is what has to happen, and therefore I will make it happen.
Yeah.
What great foreshadowing for the end of the movie.
Yeah. By the way, that's a dude dropping down in the splits because Gina couldn't do that. She could do the splits, but she couldn't do the drop into the splits. So that's a man in a skirt. And then that's her when they cut to the other shot. And Jimmy's response is, this is goddamn circus.
Which now, again, not to harp on the injustices between genders, but a lot of stunt women are get furious when men are
men
put
come in to do the thing, right?
And so like these days it'd be like why couldn't you have found another woman to do those splits? But
that is a great point.
That's what I thought was funny in Spaceballs when they had that scene where all the men were playing the characters and the stunts and all the women and stuff. That was brilliant.
Spaceballs. We go into another montage. And now they're playing, and now is when people start showing up. The sailors want to catch a fly to get a kiss. There's newspapers, filming Betty Spaghetti. Jimmy's signaling for people. The girls are knocking down pictures of Hitler, Tojo, and Mussolini. And then we have the Madonna line.
What if at a key moment in the game, my uniform bursts open and oops, my bosoms come flying out. That might draw a crowd, right?
You think there are men in this country who ain't seen your bosoms?
And Marla gets a letter from Nelson. And even Rosie has her fans, and they come up with flowers. And then there's this great moment where there's an African-American woman.
Yeah.
She throws the ball to the girls, and there's a look, and she nods. That is a powerful moment.
Yeah. And it's also like there's no stone unturned in this movie, right?
Totally.
Like the fact that this movie proved you could have like 15 memorable characters.
Right.
That you think about, and like from her, like Rosie's fans, like you think about them and that they had their own.
Nelson.
Every character had their own comedic game, and even the announcers, and like all across the board. It's really special in that way.
Well, this goes to that. There aren't small characters like you. Like if you're just going, this is the waiter that brings the coffee. No, they should have a personality. They should have a thing. Like the kid who drives Dottie to the place has a personality.
Yeah.
We get a moment. And this moment is like, I love it because it's sort of like, no, we haven't forgotten you. We know this movie's not about you, but we are respecting you,
And historically, there weren't any women of color playing the game. So we were honoring that and telling the story, but we tip our hats to you because we know that you should be out here playing.
Yep.
Right. And it alludes to the Negro League stuff as well on the male side. It's such a great, it works on both levels.
Yeah.
It's so brilliant.
One of the girls slides into third base, and then we get a shot of her bruise.
Yeah.
That's a real bruise.
Yeah.
It's real.
Really?
That's what they said. They said
it. If they're
they're sliding in these.
Sliding, yeah.
That is a nasty looking bruise.
Those are the worst.
We even have Rosie catches a ball in the stands and comes out with a hot dog. Dottie does the behind the back catch, which is really Gina Davis doing that. And Dottie's spitting tobacco next to Jimmy. He's like, that sounded good.
Did Major League come out after or before?
It's before. It's in the 80s.
Yeah,
Major
League's in the 80s.
89.
Because Major League, it's the influences of Major League, just having like every character having kind of like the 85, 86 Chicago Bears where like you knew Peyton and Jim McMahon and Refrigerator Perry. Yeah. It's like just making sure that each character was memorable on the team.
It's funny. I think you're totally right. I think the Natural for like style and Major League for some of the comedy, they're both influences. We've talked about doing Major League on the show.
I loved it so much. I would listen to the soundtrack. I know that sounds crazy, but
wait.
Do you think when I find holes in my pockets, memories on my mind?
I know no one else who knows this song. Oh my God. The Bill Medley song. It's such a beautiful
but
song.
Most of all, you. I loved it so much. And I
he's made my whole world.
I will like sing it to Eben or whatever. But I used to, when I was in track in college, I used to listen to the soundtrack on like our bus rides or whatever. Because that soundtrack is amazing.
It's a great soundtrack.
Wild Thing.
Yeah. It's all through it. I never know anyone else than Most of All You. That has been on my it's always on my love mix that I have. Always.
It's great.
I have to say, this is like one of the this is one of the great moments in Cine-Files history. There's something magical and unexpected just occurred.
What I'm saying back to you is that I've never met anyone else who knew it either.
Oh my God. It's such a great song.
It's so beautiful.
No one talks about it.
I just want to join the club a tiny bit. When Charlie Sheen enters to Wild Thing in the big moment at the end, I cry. Every single time. Oh, totally. There's some of because for me, a lot of times it's like a perfect filmic moment, and I think that is one. Like just like the Oh, God, I don't know why. It just gets me.
I'm gonna mess this up, so I wish I was gonna get this right. But I like Renee Russo. Like, so she's a librarian.
She's a librarian,
right?
yes.
And her license plate, I believe, says books.
Yeah.
or something like that.
Oh, I think it says books.
What
Yeah.
is- or
book
maybe-
lover. I think it's book lover.
Book lover? Yeah. I remember
BKLV,
being
yeah.
like, oh, look at that license plate.
Yeah. Did you really read Moby Dick? Cover to cover, babe.
Yeah.
Fucking love that thing.
Oh, he was so attractive in that movie.
We're gonna have to do that. That movie
Yeah.
is just eminently quotable.
Will you invite me back to do Major League?
Yeah,
that,
of
was
course.
that was a big one for me.
I haven't seen it in a really long time.
And I'll print-
It was one I watched over and over and over again, but it's been 10 years.
I'll
Probably
print
since
out the lyrics for that. For most of all,
We're going to do a duet. All right. We're back on the bus. And Jimmy sees a picture of Bob, Dot's husband. And we hear that he's in Italy, and this subject of telegrams comes up, which is a great little plant, and how scary that is for her. And then we go to like, why aren't you in the army? Well, it's knee, his knee. He says,
How did I get so useless so fast?
which you got to get, it's like if you are hitting 400 home runs. Apparently he hit 58 home runs in a season. We find out at the end. He's one of the greatest baseball players of all time. That is a long way to go.
Yeah, when 61 was the home run record for so long.
Well,
during
that's
that
in
time.
That's in 60s though.
Right.
That's
Mickey
still
Mantle. Yeah, right.
That's still 50.
Who is it?
Ted Williams.
Ted Williams.
No. Roger Maris.
Right. Ted Williams is the 400 hitter.
Yeah.
Right.
And then there's this moment. It's like, well, when Bob comes back, you're going to keep playing. No.
You could just quit like that?
Sure.
Because you play like you love it.
No.
Does he know how good you are?
Bob,
No, Hitler. Yes, Bob.
how good am I?
You stink. You're lousy. You're only the best player in the league.
And again, this is where I go the little bit of unknowableness about Dot. And well, what exactly does she really think? It's obvious that she cares about baseball and that she cares about, well, how good I am I? But there's another little thing here. And then I love this thing she asks.
You ever been married?
Well, let me think. Yeah, twice.
Any children?
One of them was, yeah.
It's a great little joke. And then he wants to get a drink, and she takes the flask out of his hand and hands him a Coke. We're at the next game.
Their affection is growing for each other, right? You just see it build.
Yeah. She understands why he's drinking.
Right.
Right. Well, and he really respects her. And so here, and this is I guess this is the question is part of him in love with her?
Yes.
I think so too.
I think he's falling in love with her. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Is part of her in love with him?
No. I don't think so. I think she respects his abilities as a player and understand, like she becomes the coach to him.
Yeah. I'm going to play a word game that is silly, but I don't think part of her is in love with him, but I think she loves part of him, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, but as you would love a friend or a brother,
There's something amazing about him that she sees.
Yep.
But I don't think any part of her is in love with him.
He's also damaged.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love a stray sometimes?
We're in the next game, and Kit's getting hit on. She's not doing that well. Jimmy goes out to the mound, and Dot comes out, and he asks Dot, how's she doing? And her first response is great. She's battling. That is a very non-response response. That is not, she is not quite willing, because she's not willing to lie, I don't think. But she is trying not to be mean. And then he looks at her.
What do you think?
She's done. She's throwing grapefruits up there.
And Kit goes out mad.
Yeah.
And Dot's completely right. This is what you do. Kit does not, there's certain things that Kit has not accepted about the game. The game is the game.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a time where pitchers stayed in games a lot longer than they do today. Today, pitchers are out, really soon. And Gary Marshall's there, and he's happy.
In a hat. Always in a hat.
It's so funny in this role. And he's given credit to and he compliments Strathairn, and Strathairn goes, no, we got to give credit to the girls because he has become a convert. He believes in this thing.
Yeah.
And Gary Marshall's like, well, fortunately, we're not going to leave him anymore. Well, what do you mean?
What do you mean, what do I mean? We're winning the war. our situation changed. I mean, Roosevelt himself said men's baseball won't be shut down, so we won't need the girls next year.
Because this has only existed because the men weren't there. And that's not what Strathairn wants.
This is what it's going to be like in the factories, too, I suppose, isn't it? Men are back, Rosie. Turn in your rivets. We told them it was their patriotic duty to get out of the kitchen and go to work. And now when the men come back, we'll send them back to the kitchen.
What a great male ally.
Yeah.
Do you know how dedicated these girls are? What they go through? They play with sprained ankles, broken fingers. They ride a bus sometimes all night to play a doubleheader the next morning.
I'll make it up to them.
What, with Harvey bars?
That is pretty tough against the rich boss.
Yeah.
And finally, he says, I want to take over the league. Let me buy the teams. Because he really, really believes in them. Later on in the locker room, Dot is talking to Kit, and she says, you acted like a baby. And Kit's response is, because you treat me like a baby. And she's like, no, I treated you like a pitcher. Which is, of course, absolutely right.
Everything is so loaded. The casting is so amazing with these two.
Yeah.
Because like Lori Petty is just like her essence is Kit.
Yeah.
And then Gina Davis just has that command. And then it's also emotional. It's also like the past of your sister. It's so great because it's so loaded and it's so fraught between the two of them.
Totally. Well, what Lori Petty said is she said, I'm kind of a new actor, and Gina Davis has 2 Oscar nominations and an Oscar.
Yeah.
She's a huge star. She felt that way towards her, that she had to prove herself constantly.
gosh, you
that
can
she's,
feel it.
I mean,
Yeah,
like
great.
that's totally coming off. And she says that she wanted to be backed up instead of holding me back. And Dot's responsive, I held you back. And that's how Kit has interpreted everything. And of course, that's not what Dot is doing. Dot's like, I got you here. I helped you get on the team. And Kit just runs out on her. And Dot's like, I'm done. She sees Strathairn and says, I'm going home. Which again makes me go like, well, was she just coming to this team for Kit? Like, how much does she love being here? Because she's ready to leave. And it kind of comes
like it's a distraction as she waits for her husband to come home because otherwise you'd just be on the farm alone without your sister.
And it kind of becomes like, well, either I go home, or you make a trade, or you got to make something happen.
Just trade me or whatever, but you gotta figure it out by tomorrow, okay? Otherwise, I'm going home.
Tomorrow? Tomorrow? Fine. All right, I'll work everything out by tomorrow. You really gave me a scare there for a second.
And we're back at like their boarding house, wherever they're staying, and Kit comes in furious because she's been traded. And Dot's like, no, I thought they were going to trade me. And they have this whole argument, and just outside is Rosie doing sort of telephone of eavesdropping on this big argument that they're having and telling everyone else. And man, Dot just kind of loses it. I mean, for the first time.
Hey, Kit, blow it out your rear end. I am so sick of being blamed for everything that's bothering you. I got you into this league, goddammit. You got her into the league. I didn't even want to be here.
Then why are you still here?
And the fight ends and they split, like we don't have any resolution of this fight. And the next day we're in the locker room and they start singing that song.
Which I love. By the way, I used to know this song by heart, but over the years, sometimes my friends and I, we would just like, if it called for it, we would just like go into batter up, hear our call. The time has come for one and all to play ball.
That was good.
That's great.
Like you kind of went for the harmony at the end
Yeah.
there. That was good.
To play ball.
For we're the members of the All-American League. We come from cities near and far. We got Canadians, Irish ones and Swedes. We're all for one, we're all American.
Yeah, I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for that, and this is where it goes back for always. It's like they are ball players first. And what they do so great with the movie is that they're women first and they're ball players. And then at some point in the movie, they become ball players first, but then they remind us that they're women. And then they become a team.
Right.
And then a family. And then they all just, regardless of gender, you would have whatever is happening to you, so that they have this because I think there's something very feminine about the song.
It is, yeah.
You know, and like when
of the era. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And when I'm certain if you guys on sports that you didn't do this, but for lady sports teams, like in high school, like on bus rides home, we would sing songs. Like, and I grew up kind of a dirtbag, like an hour and a half south of Chicago. And I remember that we would sing Bryan Adams' Summer of '69. Like we would and like the whole bus, you know, like I got my first real six string, and that was like a bonding, that was right. Like, and I don't think most people know that.
Yeah.
So like
unless you're on the team of the White Shadow in the showers, then you would have. But other than that, no.
So this was like such a great example. This song, it's like, yeah, that's what like girls did, women did, or whatever, and like in high school, girls. So and that's what was really important to me in Pitch Perfect when they're on the bus. For all you listeners, if you've watched Pitch Perfect, when they're on the bus and they sing Party in the USA, that was a direct connection to me being on sports teams and driving to different locations and us singing together.
That's awesome.
That's great.
So I put my hands up to play my song. The butterflies fly away. Nodding my head like yeah, moving my hips like yeah. Put my hands up to play my song, and all gonna be okay. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's a party in the USA.
It's funny too because it's not women, but it's in Almost Famous when they start singing.
Tiny
Dancer. Yeah.
I
That's
always
great.
say Tony dances.
I forget. Really? There's a whole lyric. I forget what it is now. It's I forget what it's something.
It's from
something.
Friends,
Tony,
right?
Yeah,
Like,
it's from Friends.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
from
yeah.
Friends.
No way. The most romantic song ever was The Way We Were.
See, I think the one that Elton John wrote for that guy on Who's the Boss.
What song is that, Phoebes?
Hold me close, young Tony Danza.
But we digress. And we have Stillwell sitting in the locker room, kind of covering his eyes and then peeking. And Jimmy comes in, slaps Miss Cuthbert's ass. And he has just found out that if they win the World Series, he gets a bonus. So this has suddenly become important. He wants them to play hard. And then the guy enters with the telegram.
Oh, man.
That scene has always stayed with me.
It's awful.
Excuse me? I got a telegram from one of you ladies from the War Department. Let's see. Boy, I hate these. These are the worst. Least the Army could do is send someone personally. Tell your husband's dead.
And he's so flippant about it.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, man.
And the shock that you see going around the room. And Jimmy, this is where Jimmy's great.
Just give me the telegram.
I can't. I don't have a name on the checklist.
Just give me the telegram.
Hey, this is official. This is from the War Department. Come on. That's official business. I'm coming back.
There's a long sort of pause, and then he walks over and hands it to Betty Spaghetti.
Yeah.
And she cries, and he comforts her, and hugs her.
Now juxtapose this to what happens at the beginning when he comes in the first time and he pees.
Yep.
Whose card does she rip up? It's Betty Spaghetti's card that her husband...
I totally didn't put that together.
Her husband had given Betty Spaghetti Jimmy Dugan's rookie card for Jimmy Dugan to sign for him and send it, but he rips it up.
Oh, it's
and
for
now
her
the
husband
arc,
who's... Oh, my
right.
God.
I never
now the arc
realized
comes
that.
out.
I didn't either.
In that moment, he's comfort. When first he had rejected this, now he's the one that
hadn't
comforts
thought
her in
that
that
it's
moment.
the dead guy's card.
Yeah.
Oh, my
George.
God.
George.
And it's just a brutal, brutal scene. And it's sort of like with the African American woman. It's like, we're going to take a moment for this thing.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of time. We're not spending a lot of time. We're going to nail this moment. And then Jimmy says,
All right, come on. We still got a game to play.
Yeah, it's constant social commentary on what was happening in real life. And
that's why this movie is more than just a sports movie, because Penny throws in, just when you're starting to feel good, just when you're starting to feel happy, she throws this real life thing in there that gets you just a bit unsettled. So you know the stakes are constantly there, no matter how much you're laughing and enjoying the movie. The stakes are like higher.
Yeah.
I love that.
and the music we're hearing, by the way, it just used to be My Playground. That's the music playing right now. And we go to just a great, lovely shot of Dottie alone in the hotel room weeping.
Yeah.
And it's well acted, and there's a knock at the door, and we see a man with a limp and a cane, And there's Bob, Bill Pullman.
Bobby.
He's great, and his casting is great. I mean, I always like Bill Pullman, but it's also that he has to come in and be completely solid and right in a way to make it okay that this is the relationship and it's not the Tom Hanks relationship.
I almost forgot how beautiful you are.
Oh no, I look terrible.
You look beautiful. You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
And their kiss and what they talk and like the line of, can't we just hold each other for the rest of our lives? And he says, that's my plan. That's great. Yeah, that you're like, oh, okay, I understand what this is.
Yeah.
She really loves him too.
She really
Of
loves
course.
him.
Right? And that you can just feel
Yeah.
Well, and I think because he's been absent and we've just been hearing about her, and we've basically been hearing about her, I'm sacrificing my baseball life, everything, because I have this husband, and that now he comes in and you go, oh,
Yeah.
okay, I
It's
understand.
perfect for her. Like her, they complement each other,
Yeah.
right? Like you don't get a sense that he's just like telling her what to do and
Right.
how to
Yeah.
be. You know, like
No,
she
he's-
picked the right person for herself.
Totally.
Yeah.
He's as chill as she is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're gonna have a
yeah.
very cool
They
life.
are pretty mellow
Yeah,
people.
very chill.
A very chill life.
And it's time to get on the bus, and Jimmy's rushing people onto the bus, signs an autograph, which is, wow, avoid the clap, Jimmy Dugan. And his response is, that's good advice. And then he calls to Dottie, and he walks up, and he sees that they're staying in a car, and he goes, what are you doing, taking a day trip? And she says, no, Bobby and I are driving home to Oregon. And that's just crushing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I really thought you were a ball player.
Well, you were wrong.
And this is this moment, you know.
It is only a game, Jimmy. It's only a game, and I don't need this. I have Bob. I don't need this. I don't.
And his response is,
I gave away 5 years at the end of my career to drinking. 5 years. And now there isn't anything I wouldn't give to get back any one day of it.
Well, we're different.
are they different? Like how, this is where I go like, why is she leaving? Because I don't like her leave. I mean, obviously I don't like her leaving. You shouldn't leave the team in the middle of the World Series. I know Bob's back.
Well, to me, it's this thing just happened with Betty Spaghetti.
Yeah.
He's come back.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I think she's like, this is really just a game. And as Kay said at the beginning of this whole thing, she's always had perspective from the first second about the game. And so she knows that Bob is where her life is and where she's going to build a life and foundation. And, you know, so she can leave these women behind because this is, for once, she's going to do something for herself for once, you know, and she's going to go off with Bob.
Too.
Because the rest of the time, the whole film, she's been doing something for everybody. So she's going to go off with Bob and have her life. And she's pugnacious about it. And the reason is because she knows that what she's doing is against her natural instinct or impulse. But for once, she wants to be selfish. And she can't even be selfish in a way that's like angry or mean. She's being selfish in a way that it's almost like she understands what she's doing, but she's still going to do it anyway because she wants to reclaim a little bit of her life. And so she purposely pushes Tom away in a harder fashion than she normally would because Tom is being upset about it. And it's because he cares about her too and wants her around, you know. So there's a lot going on in the scene. It's so great.
Yeah, I mean, in the movie, there's like so many bits and we laugh and it's all fun. But the truth is, like, the reason this movie is evergreen and will always, you know, is because of its genuine truth. Like a woman like Dot, that's how a woman would be. You know, if she has perspective, like she's pragmatic, she's practical, her husband is back. It's like you didn't dream that way.
Right.
You don't dream the way you dream now. Like you don't,
Right.
you know, like Serena Williams has like sort of changed the way a girl will approach, you know, like professional sports.
Yeah.
You know, like for her, like the dream went here. There was no like actual love and passion of a sport because that's not how a woman would dream. Like that wouldn't be her dream come true. Her dream come true would be love and family.
That's how she's always framed her life.
Yeah.
It's funny. I hadn't thought about it, but I think you're 100% right that the Betty Spaghetti telegram is hugely influential in this moment. And the other thing I was thinking, just from Jimmy's perspective, is he has 100% connected with the baseball part of Dot and gone like and sees that perfectly clearly as who she is. And what he thinks is that he sees all of who she is.
Right.
But actually, he's only seen that one aspect. He hasn't seen the other stuff because he's gone, you're like me. And it's like, well, there is a part of her that's like him, but then there's these other parts that he doesn't, he can't really fathom.
That's a really great way of articulating that.
Yeah. And there's this moment where he says, like,
It's chicken shit, Dottie. You want to go back home to Oregon and make 100 babies? Great. I'm in no position to tell anyone how to live. But sneaking out like this, quitting, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. Baseball is what gets inside you. It's what lights you up. You can't deny that.
It just got too hard.
It's supposed to be hard. If it wasn't hard, everyone would do it. The hard is what makes it great.
I have memorized that line, and whenever I hit a moment in my career in my life where it's like that, I just hear that line over again. If it was easy, everyone would do it, and so that's the thing that keeps you going when it's hard on certain things. And I love that line. It's one of those things that stay with. And I think it's just even though it's not as many lines, it's just as powerful as the Bull Durham speech. It's just as powerful as Robert Redford's speech when he confronts Kim Basinger and Darren McGavin in the office, and Robert Prosky when he talks about baseball. And that's whenever they talk about baseball in any of these movies, there's always a moment or one character who delivers the philosophy of baseball, and there's something about it that's so American, so in the just in the foundation of the culture. For whatever reason, baseball is the one sport that is the quintessential American sport that we see our lives through.
It's funny. I had Jax who did Little League. He did T-ball, and we had played very little. Like we hadn't really played baseball at all. And I'm trying to explain baseball to him, and I realize baseball is so weird. It's the weirdest sport.
Yes,
it's like, because like football or soccer, it's like, well, you're trying to go there and kick that thing through that thing or run across that thing. Basketball, it's like there's this circle and you want to throw your thing through. It's like, oh, I get that. Baseball is like, so if you hit the ball on the ground, then you could step on this first base before someone gets there, but you can't do that to second because there has to be someone behind you. And if the ball is in the air and you catch it, you could tag up, and it's all this totally complicated, bizarre things. And the skill set is really unusual.
I dated a baseball player, and around when Jordan was. When Michael Jordan, and he was so furious, and I was like, well, what's the big deal or whatever, and he was like, you don't understand, like if Michael Jordan takes that position, he knocks down
all the other
everyone as it goes lower. And he said, you have to understand that like that the nature of the game is that if I hit the ball one out of every 3 or 4 times at bat, I'm great.
That's
at the game. Like I take this tiny ball and the bat, whatever.
Right.
And he's like, so if you're batting 300, like you're really, really good.
Yeah.
And that's a very difficult thing to do. So for somebody who's worked all these years to get to a position where they might, Michael Jordan's taking it away. But what I left with that was like, oh, I never thought about it that way before. That like if you're like anywhere else in any other sport, that'd be failing.
Yeah.
But in baseball, it's a huge success.
Well, and in baseball too, it's not, it is 1 out of every 3 at bats, but it's also, there might be 10 pitches in that at bat that you fail and fail and fail.
Yeah.
And it's so rare.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, that's always a comparison to being an actor, which is because it's not physically necessarily that hard. You have to sit and wait all day, and then you're going to go out, and then there's going to be this moment with 50 or 100 people on a movie set staring at you, and you have to act like your kid died or something and get it in that moment and be real and honest and true. It's really, really hard.
Yeah.
That is a really, really hard thing to do. Okay. And Jimmy walks away. And Bob comes up and says,
I love these transitions.
And Bob kind of comes up, it's like, everything all right? And he closes the door on the bus, and they get in the car and they drive away. And we're into the first game of the World Series, and a big crowd shows up, and we got newspaper headlines, and Rosie's getting flowers, and Kit, who's now on the other team, she just hammers the Peaches, and they win the Bells win the first game. That's Kit's new team. And
Racine.
Yeah. And we're in the locker room, and Jimmy's now doing some intense coaching. He throws a towel down on the floor, and he kneels, and he leads them in a beautiful, heartfelt, deeply spiritual prayer.
Lord, hallowed be thy name. May our feet be swift,
May our bats be mighty. May our balls be plentiful.
It's just great little. So I'm sure you could speak to this, but to me, so much of comedy is about reaction shots, and seeing the reaction shots of the team as he's doing this, and then I think he just can't keep going and goes into.
Lord, I just like to thank you for that waitress in South Bend. You know who she is. She kept calling your name.
Terrible.
It's fun. I really miss funny Tom Hanks. Like, there was a whole time in our youth where he was this amazing comedic actor, and I feel like this is kind of the end, other than like bits on Saturday Night Live, where he's still funny. But like next year is Philadelphia, and then the year after that is Forrest Gump, and then he sort of is in all these dramas.
Oh, actually, like I was just looking up his career, like the '90s stretch for Tom Hanks was just so amazing because it was like
Castaway
Sleepless in Seattle for like Castaway's at the end,
Yeah.
like it's like a '98 or '90 whatever, but it went from like League of Their Own to Sleepless in Seattle to Forrest Gump to Philadelphia Forrest Gump, Apollo 13.
Apollo 13.
Yeah.
Um,
Tom Hanks was on 30 Rock, and it was really.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, and it wasn't an episode that I wrote or anything like that, but I went on set when he was there, and this is just a guy who like oozes charisma. Is I had the pleasure of meeting him a couple of times before that, and he's just like such a wonderful guy. But like just like walking from his dressing room to the set of just like, okay, what am I doing? Where am I sitting? What do I, like, but super fun and kind of like, I guess a little bit like his bosom buddies character,
right?
or in like Trading Places or not Trading Places.
You mean Bachelor Party or
no? Jackie Gleason.
Oh my, Nothing in Common.
Nothing in Common.
Yeah.
Nothing in Common when he's like talking to his assistant or whatever and like trying to get her to say hello or whatever. Like it was a little bit of that. Like he just has like great charisma and super fun. That was like a weird thing to say. But all I'm saying is when Tom Hanks walked in, the whole crew, everybody, it's like everybody stops and it's like this guy is the deal.
It's really weird
Real
when
deal.
I've been in the room with a couple of people like that sometimes, and it's always weird where a whole room just instantly goes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The
and
energy
turns.
shifts and it's just a whole
It's a
different
very
thing.
strange
I
thing.
remember the SAG Awards a few years ago, right as we're about to start, maybe a minute or two before it's about to start. Everyone's in their seats, and all of a sudden, these two double doors open right by the stage where people are walking in, and in comes Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones hand in hand. It was like royalty. I swear, it was like the doors. And then they came through, and everyone was like, "Oh!" It was just fascinating. And you're right. When you see that in person, you're like, "I don't understand this. Like, this is what they're talking about.
Right.
It's mind blowing."
The weird thing to me too is the people that are totally comfortable with that, and be like, So I was at a rap party. Karen worked on a Kevin Costner movie, and he walked into the rap party, and it was a big rap party, and there's several hundreds of people, and everyone turned to him, and he was just like, "Yes,
My people, yes."
It was
You may
really weird.
continue. Enjoy the shrimp cocktail.
I have entered.
Okay, it's time for the final game. The series is tied up.
Yeah,
Gary Marshall is there. We're back with our
Is
announcer.
Marla left? When did Marla leave?
Yes, she got married. Maybe I didn't say it.
Yeah.
I will say it now.
It's too sad. Just let's pretend like she's there.
On the bench.
It's too much because Dot left.
No, Marla, no Dot. We really need some hitters.
That's right. That's right.
Our team is
got the lineup.
It's a problem in the lineup. The Stillwell is still making fun, and Jimmy's chasing him, and goes and talks to the pitcher, and then he goes and talks to the catcher, who is strangely framed, so her head is just underneath the frame, and he says, if the pitcher gets in trouble, you got to tell me right away. You have to tell me. You listen to me? Do you hear me? And then Dot pops up. Yeah, I hear you. And she's in her catcher uniform.
That was fun. That was a good reveal.
Totally fun, and a great reaction from Tom Hanks. And she says, I got as far as Yellowstone, and then we turn back.
I mean, I wasn't anywhere near being a writer. I didn't know anything. Like now, I can watch pretty, a lot of stuff and just be like, okay,
Here's
gonna happen.
how the plan works.
So there's nothing jaded, nothing whatever. And like watching that when she popped up, it's like, what? That's great. And then another little fun fact is, and I feel like this is a lot like Major League, where other players on other teams were like famous people or would eventually become famous people.
Yeah.
So like Taya Leone is a member of the racing team.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting. Was she wearing pearls? 'Cause she always wears pearls. Was she? Yeah.
Did not know that. And then there's this kind of conversation of, well, can I play? And he says, I didn't say that you could play
Right.
yet.
I love that. Him
Great
playing
little-
hard to get.
Great little back and forth, which ends with, kind of like,
Well, you're already dressed.
if you want to play, well, I don't care. Okay, you can play. Well, then I'll play. And then you have the great, okay, good, well, fine.
Hey, Jimmy. You look like shit. Don't you ever shave?
It's a really, really fun scene.
It's basically the equivalent of both of them saying, I love you too.
Totally. That's totally what it is. It's time for the game. Kit is throwing a great game. Lots of strikeouts. There's a very good baseball montage, and we see that this is a defensive game. It is 0-0, and finally there's a base hit and an error, and it gets stretched in, and it's 1-0. It's 1-0 Bells. And Jimmy calls Evelyn in because she made this error, and his angry trying to not make her cry
Is amazing.
Amazing.
It's the best.
His whole body shaking, and he's like,
Still missing the cutoff man. Now, that's something that I would like you to work on before next season.
and she kind of smiles and goes,
she's like waiting for the blow
for the explosion.
It shows his growth.
Yeah. A little growth.
He has like a little bit of growth.
And you know what? It shows
so
her
great.
growth too, because
Yes.
she's like, I'm going to take this in. And she says, thank you. My note there is literally, Tom Hanks is so funny.
Because it's like he's spitting he's holding back spit and he's shaking and his cheeks are red.
He really wants to blow up. He really does.
Yeah.
But he can't.
May gets out, and what does the crowd yell as she walks out? All the way, May. That's great. And she gets a single. Rosie gets a base hit. May's at second. Kit is starting to look tired. Evelyn is up, lays down a bunt. She advances the runner. Betty Spaghetti's out at first. And I always kind of like, why is Dot batting so late in the order? She should be batting cleanup, but that's okay. It's what the movie needed.
He didn't know she was showing up. Like he just put her.
And now Dot is up, and the look that she gives as she walks up to the plate is like full competitive athlete. She's got the eye of the tiger walking up to that plate. It is so great. And she looks so good as a batter. I mean, she just really does. And now we're in this classic baseball moment. There's the long build to the first pitch, and she hits that ball straight up the middle at Kit, who just hits the deck, and Dot scores 2 runs. And I love Bob's little moment.
That's my wife!
And Kit is clearly upset.
She's melting down on the mound.
Completely. And is Dot sees that she's upset? And there's kind of that eye contact, and Dot walks away.
Because this is a ball game. She's an athlete.
And Kit, the last thing that she did was say, "You're keeping me down. This is all your fault." Right. You know, when Dot said she has to sit down from pitching, she's like, "Oh, it's she's angry at her." It's like, well, fuck you. I'm playing baseball now.
Yeah.
This is the game.
Yeah.
It's the bottom of the ninth now. We're still up 2-1. Kit is just in hysterics in the dugout, and they're like, you got to get it together. You got to bat." Yep. And Gina sees her, and she walks away, puts the mask on, and May makes a great catch off fly ball off the wall. Rosie, by the way, her banter on third base is fantastic.
Eloquent to me, Ellison! Eloquent to me! Shake that one off now! Shake that one off!
And the way she hits her mitt too is really great.
Really funny.
Come on.
One ball. One
Yep.
ball.
Yeah.
There's
We got one. We got 2.
There's a foul ball which Dot catches by diving into the dugout.
Well, there's no question who the star of this game has been. Dottie Hinton and her team 1 out from the title.
That's really fun. Like that.
Yeah.
That was all that that exciting flair, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now finally Kit is up, and she is trying to pull herself together. And I'd go like, man, why didn't this manager put in a pinch hitter?
Right.
I mean, if your batter is literally weeping, maybe you pull
How
her.
do we end the movie? I don't know. It's
It is
impossible.
because this is what has to happen for the
Yeah.
movie. And there's a great look between Dot and Kit as she kind of moves up to bat. Dot calls timeout. She walks to the pitcher. She says,
High fastballs. Just can't hit him. Can't lay off.
Rosie's still talking.
All right, we just told him now. We got it. Come on.
And we get our first pitch.
Swing and a miss, strike one.
Oh, yes. Yes, thank you, boy.
Second pitch.
Swing and a miss, strike two.
Rosie's going one more. And Kit looks at Gina, who does not make eye contact. And then finally she looks up at the end, and the music cue is perfect. By the way, I didn't realize who the composer is. It's Hans Zimmer. Like, this is so different for the guy who did so many great, heavy, dramatic, serious scores. It's a really, really good score.
Han, I need you to score the movie.
If I could do a German accent, I would have given you a response.
Nine penny.
And then there's that last pitch.
Here's the pitch.
It is a high fastball, and Kit hits it. Hits it way over the fielder's head. And she runs to first. She rounds second. She rounds third. The throw comes in. Evelyn does throw it to the cutoff man because you got to hit every plant
Every
and payoff.
setup is being paid off here.
Absolutely.
The whole movie.
The ball comes in. Gina has it. She steps in front of the plate. The charge comes in. They collide. They both go down. We see Gina's hand fly up, and the ball comes out. Bells win. What are your comments on this moment?
Well, I think it's been a big debate of whether or not she accidentally, dropped the ball or like let go of the ball, or if she let go of the ball. To me, it's of course she let go of the ball.
What do you think?
I think it's a perfect ending for this relationship because once again, even if she did let go of the ball, Dot is still doing what's best for everybody. And it's a perfect character thing.
Everybody except her team for which she threw the game, if that's the
They do
case.
such a great job of her being like, I'm a ball player, ball player first. I'm the leader of this team. But then we know that she's pragmatic. We know that she doesn't care about winning. We know that she cares about family. And her husband and her sister at the end of the day.
That's how she's built.
Yeah.
I
feel like the shot is like kind of shows that it's like dropped on, because
it doesn't
it's
fly
down,
out of
right?
her hand.
I've never made a decision one way or the other. I've always just let it be. And I don't ever want to decide one way or the other, because to me, then I'd have to accept that moment is that moment to find that way.
Yeah.
And I like it that I don't know what happened. But either way, it happens in sports all the time. Being such an avid sports watcher, you never know why that field goal kicker misses that one kick, or why that person drops that ball at the wrong time or misses the shot or whatever, or hits it. You just never know in sports. It's crazy. And that's why that situation. And I love that they made it a baseball play.
Yeah.
It's a baseball play. It's a hardcore baseball play.
And it's because the ambiguity is so clear. Like, we know it is either that she dropped it on purpose or she didn't. And it's very clear the thing we're questioning about, which is what, at the beginning we talked about, and you said, well, it's like the ending of Rocky or Bad News Bears. Yeah. And I love Rocky and Bad News Bears. This is way more complicated.
Yeah. Well, fair.
Those are like the team lost, the team that we love lost, and that was great.
They're moral victories.
Yeah.
But there's no moral victory necessarily here.
This is like the thing that needed to happen for Kit's character has happened. But in order for that to happen, the team, Kit has lost because she needed that, and our team Kit has won because she needed that, and our team has lost.
You couldn't really have, if you had a different ending, the actual ending would not be satisfying.
Yep. Yeah.
The actual ending of everybody coming together all those years later and looking back fondly at that time, you wouldn't really be able to look back fondly if Kit had won straight out, or you needed that ambiguity so that everybody coming back goes, oh, that was a special time, and what wonderful was that, and for everyone to love it at the same level.
You know what's interesting that just occurred to me is that Gina Davis is the star, and there's always, I'm sure you've had these screenwriting classes and books or people that say your main character must change. You know, they have to go through a process of change.
Never took a class in school.
Never took a class. I think most writing classes are dumb, by the way. But there are lots of times they say that, and Gina Davis doesn't change.
I know exactly where you're going. I was just going to say the same thing.
Kit changes.
Kit is the arc.
She has an arc.
Not Gina. Gina is the solid throughout.
Yeah. She's steady.
What a great deft twist to make the arc of the protagonist be actually Kit's arc, because she hits the high fastball, which is what Dot told her from the first time we see them on screen to not swing at. But she accomplishes the one thing Dot told her not to do, and she does it. And so now she can believe in herself again.
Yeah.
That what she does, she can succeed at.
And she beat Dot.
Right.
Let's be
And she
really
beat
clear.
Dot.
She beat
Exactly.
Dot. She gets carried out on the shoulders.
Mhm.
And Strathairn's talking to Harvey, and he says, okay, we're going to stick with this thing.
Yeah.
And we're in our locker room. We got Rosie, who's pissed off. And then Dot looks over at Kit.
Yeah.
And Kit is signing autographs.
Yeah.
And the character that we see of Kit signing autographs, we have never seen in this movie.
Right.
She is confident and kind and compassionate and funny. She has become a complete person.
The chip is off her shoulder.
Exactly.
What's your name? Mary. Mary? Who are you rooting for?
Racing!
That's what I thought you said. Okay, you guys be good. Get dirty.
To make a community reference, if Dot holds onto the ball, Kit is in the darkest timeline.
Oh, yeah.
There's no way, because the reference of Kit at the beginning is, at her husband, they're jet setting all over the world. This is a successful Kit. This is a Kit that has self-esteem and self-belief and strength. So she chooses this life of hers that's very extravagant and fun. And she's always been wanting to run from the small town anyway. So it makes sense that she's a world traveler.
That saved her life.
You're right.
She did.
Yep. It's so brilliant.
If she dropped the ball on purpose.
I don't think they did.
Yeah.
It doesn't take away that Kit hit a great ball.
It doesn't.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, yeah.
And she did, by the way, we don't know what would have happened if she had stayed at third, which I think the base coach is saying,
That's
stop.
right.
I
That's
know.
right.
Yeah.
Like her ego got in the way still.
It did.
Because you're always going to be who you are.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
And then I love the moment at the end where Kit says, look, I'm sorry I knocked you over. And Dot says, no, you're not.
You were blocking the entire plate. How do you expect me to even
Look,
get
that's the way the game is played. You did what you had to do. You just beat me. You wanted it more than me.
That's a big gift to give. And we see that there's a moment of kind of connection between the two. And Dot's like, well, Bob and I are driving back to Oregon. Why don't you come with us? Kit's not going with them.
No.
She has another life. She has another place she wants to go.
Some of the girls have been talking about staying around here, and getting jobs. I really like it here. But you're coming back next year, right?
No. I want to have kids. We want to have kids.
Dottie, you got plenty of time to have kids. You couldn't give this up. You'd miss this too much.
Miss it? Yeah, I miss putting on all this gear, catching a double header in 100-degree heat, pushing the bus through the mud, get slammed into every other day by a base runner. Think I'm gonna miss that?
Yeah.
I also get that Dot would have just let it go, like just let that time go and not talk about it and not make it important. And it's the most important thing in Kit's life. So like her going, I don't even know if I want to go, and her kid saying, you gotta go.
Yeah.
It's like it's just everything's just so loaded and full of emotion. And
I'll tell you what I'll miss.
What?
Well, I miss the girls. I miss you, Kit.
Me?
Yeah, how many sisters do you think I have?
But they have their moment of like really giving each other a hug at the end. And one thing I find kind of strange as they're sort of splitting up at this moment is there seems to be tension about their relationship for the older characters that I don't understand what it is. Like, because to me, this feels like the relationship is resolved, but it doesn't feel that way at the beginning of the movie with talking about Cena and Kit. And then when they see each other at the end, which we're about to get to, it seems like they haven't seen each other in a really, really long time. And I don't quite understand it.
they may have separated, just because they had such, like you were saying, like they had such different lives, and Kit was meant to go on one path and Dot goes on another path. That's the judgment could still be there, like, again, it's not like Kit changes so much,
right?
And Dot doesn't really change, but it's just the confidence in Kit is there.
Yeah. We go outside and there Jimmy meets Bob. And Bob's first thing is that he tells Jimmy he's a big fan of him.
Jimmy Dugan. Hi, I'm a big fan of yours.
Hi, yeah?
I'm Dottie's husband.
Oh, hey. Well, then I'm a big fan of yours.
Because Jimmy's now got a job offer to manage a AAA team.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. AAA? That's great. Good luck.
Turn him down.
Why?
What do you mean, why? I already got a job.
That's great. Yeah. And she's standing there with Jimmy.
That was Bob, huh?
Yeah.
Nice guy.
Yeah.
And Dottie watches Kit head off to the bus.
What's the back and forth they say to each other? Not if I get you first or something like that?
It's they call each other mule and nag. And
Yeah.
I don't have the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I can play it now.
Hey, Kit! Lay off of those high ones.
I like the high one.
Mule!
Nag!
And Dottie watches the bus pull away, and we start to hear that All-American Girls song, and then we move back to the present. And we're back to the older Dottie watching the girls play, and up come our versions of Rosie and Madonna.
They're so great. Like they've just nailed everybody.
Everybody.
Right?
So here's her reasoning, by the way, for not doing old makeup is because she had the old women who were the real baseball players.
Yeah.
She felt prosthetics aren't going to look good next
Right.
to real old people.
Right.
So we have to do the casting. And the casting is fantastic. I don't like the Madonna casting. Everyone
Oh, you
else,
don't?
yeah, that's the one I like the least.
Oh.
Everyone else I really like. But they immediately get back into their rhythm and everyone's joking with each other. It's a lot of
And
fun.
at this point in the movie, I'm bawling. Like I like, and then you get Stillwell. What's his name?
Yeah,
Oh,
Stillwell.
yeah.
But we get it. So
Like-
we go into the Cooperstown and we go to the Hall of Fame, and there's this
Yeah.
big guy who
This
introduces himself
taps
to Dot.
into everything I love about movies, and like,
Oh, yeah.
like, oh my god, like,
Stillwell, Angel. My goodness. Where's your mom?
Mom died a couple years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry. She was a real nice lady and a damn fine ball player.
Yeah. When I heard about this, I just felt like I owed it to her to be here. She always said it was the best time she ever had in her whole life.
it's like you're seeing the glory days
Yep.
of these women, and that
Yeah.
they did something truly special and unique, and it's
Well, and here this kid who was the most obnoxious kid in
Right,
the world
right.
is honoring his mother and has clearly become a sweet and lovely man who loved his mom.
It's nice not to hate that actor too,
Yeah.
because he was the villain in Pee Wee's Big Adventure.
right.
That's right.
Do
Oh
you
my
think
God.
they cast him first and then found the kid?
Yes, I think that's
That
absolutely
kid is
correct.
like amazing.
Yes, he
They
is.
look.
That is, I really wish I had that answer. That is a fascinating question. And there's just watching them walk through Cooperstown and seeing first the photos of DiMaggio and Babe Ruth and Lou
Yeah.
Gehrig, and then Jimmy Dugan and his 58 home runs in 1938. And we see that he died in 1987. And that's just a nice
know,
little.
Yeah.
Oh, and we also
It's
hear.
like 6 feet under when we see how everybody
Oh,
died.
jeez.
That's how I
Oh,
feel.
God.
Like,
That's brutal.
you know, you find out who also, like they say, oh,
Yeah.
she passed a while ago.
Yeah, and and which is also that moment where Dottie's talking to Stillwell, and we hear that Evelyn died a few years ago, and then we hear that Bob died just last winter. And it's just, and I think that kind of informs all of the other stuff of her resisting going, and that she's been in an emotional place.
Right, yeah.
I just love
And
that John Lovitz lives.
yeah,
That whole
He
thing.
made it? That guy?
He did. That's the guy with the
That guy
cigar.
didn't look super healthy.
Oh,
That's
that's who
John
that
Lovitz
is?
with the guy
Oh
with the
my
cigar.
God, that's funny.
That's him when he turns around. He's like,
And they have the version of Strathairn who cuts the ribbon.
Yes.
And they walk through the exhibit, and now we get to see the pictures of all of them. And as we go through, we see pictures of the actual women, and it's really cool. And we see a portrait of Gary Marshall. We see this woman walks in, and she has gray hair, and she starts singing a song. You crying when they're singing the song?
Bawling my eyeballs.
Better off, hear that call. The time has come for one and all to play ball.
even Dot kind of joins in and starts singing. And then this other woman enters. She's got a big family. And you just know that's Kit. So again, it's great casting. And they see each other and there's a great hug. It really does feel to me like they haven't seen each other in a really long time. And there's let's get a picture of everyone, and they all take a picture, and we dissolve to the picture of the young team, and we go into credits, and we see that the film is dedicated to the league. And we hear "This Used to Be My Playground," which is still stuck in my head right now.
This used to be my playground. This used to be my childhood dream.
And then I think this is the most amazing part of the movie, which is as we're hearing this song and as we're running very slow credits, is we see the actual women who are in their 60s and 70s playing baseball.
Yeah.
It is amazing.
So good.
And they're good.
And they're good. Yeah, they're still like agile, or I'm sorry, they're nimble and they're like moving. They're so
think
good.
that those ladies would kick the shit out of the actresses who play the Peaches. I really do. They look so good.
I thought you were going to say kick the shit out of Gary Marshall's intramural team. May he rest in peace.
I make no comment on that.
So for Pitch Perfect 2, I actually completely stole that last, like the dissolve of the picture.
Oh, the picture thing.
Wow.
And I wrote a version for the end of Pitch 2, which was like the sweet, like where you see like Rebel and Anna putting up this picture. Or the new Bellas or whatever putting up this picture of the old championship Bellas, just stealing directly from it because I loved it so much. And then the producers
She wasn't the first person to do that, so she was stealing it too.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I
you're
mean,
cool.
Hoosiers does the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, like, oh. And then the producers were like, oh, we can't end on a sweet moment. We have to end on a comedy moment. So it ended up being a different sort of different coda that was all comedy driven. And they didn't even shoot like the sweet version, but I have it. Like I've written it, and in my mind, I'm like, that's how
That's
that
how
movie
it's supposed
ends. Yeah.
That's great. Well, this is such a lovely moment at the end of the movie, and I don't have a lot about the reception other than that it was a big hit. $133 million at the box office. Penny Marshall's second movie to go over $100 million. Critics gave it a mixed response, which is, I
don't understand that at all.
I think it's pure sexism.
It's sexism for sure.
That's what I think too.
100%.
It's such a well-made movie.
Yeah.
Good is
they,
good.
They weren't used to seeing what they were seeing.
Yeah.
And,
Didn't know how to put it somewhere.
Yeah.
It's
all white male critics or whatever. Yeah.
It's not nominated for any awards, which I think is also too bad.
Madonna's song.
Yes.
Oh, is that nominated for best song?
Yeah.
Okay. Didn't win. Did it win?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
No. She has. Madonna doesn't have an Oscar. No. Right?
Fair. I don't think so. I usually wait and cheat and get to do my final thoughts last, but I'm going to do mine first.
Oh, awesome.
Because I just think, because you're our guest, and I'll let you have the last word, but also because I just think what's so great about this movie is one of those movies that's so deceptive, is that you go like, oh, it's a light, fun movie, and then you go, as you dig into it, you're like, oh, no, this is actually about something. In particular, as we look at like the things that you said at the beginning that I love of that, women on a team, a woman becoming the alpha, and all the little pieces we see, the telegram, the African-American woman, the way the relationships are handled, the ambiguity of Dot's character, the growth of Kit's character, and what we get to see in terms of how it forces you to change the way you think about women playing baseball. And if you can change the way you think about what we consider these traditional roles of men and women, it naturally opens you up to change the way you think about women's roles in general. And the great thing about this is also the sad thing about this, because we're still working on this. The fact that Penny Marshall breaks this barrier into being a $100 million movie director, and yet there are still very, very, it is, Hollywood is thought of as like this liberal place. It is not. It is so unbelievably conservative in the way they treat the power structure and who is in charge. And it is so sad and upsetting that we are still today surprised that you could make blockers, and yet that is the reality that we continue to live in 26 years after this movie was made. So what I hope is that more people will go watch A League of Their Own, check out Blockers too, and hopefully be inspired, and that the more powers that be will hopefully be women that will hire women rather than being men that seem not to. Mm-hmm. Those are my final thoughts. What do you think, John?
It's tough to follow that, but I can only strip it down this way because I am not a woman, so the empowerment.
Wait.
Yeah. But the empowerment
First
of
time
it,
he's ever declared this.
That's right. I just want to make it clear. I'm 100% not a woman, but I look at this film and, you know, it's so strange you say the things that you say that it was mixed in, because in my mind, good is good. And I'd always enjoyed female athletes since I was a child, from figure skaters to any number of things. Even the women's soccer team in '90 was winning when it was winning, and so to me, it always was like sports, right? Sports has always been my obsession in my life. This side of movies, sports and movies are my two biggest things. But seeing what this film was, because it took a sports trope of baseball and it created a 2-hour and 10-minute film out of it. This is a all-female baseball film, and it is a 2-hour film about something incredible. And so to me, it's a great journey with phenomenal performances, great actors, and characters that you want to stay with. And that is a great compliment of any movie, is that you walk out wanting more or wanting to spend time with the characters. You said that earlier, Steve, like I would like to spend more time
totally.
with the players, and that's the truth of the film. But it also works on so many other levels because of what it's saying about family relationships, what it says about how you handle your life, what it says also about like what it's like to pursue your dreams when they come calling for you. What's the sacrifices you're willing to make? And that film encapsulates all of that and then leaves you with a nice message about being compassionate, being understanding, being in a way good for the world. And it's incredible. It's not just a baseball movie. You could strip it down to that and it still works fantastic as a sports movie. Of
course.
But it's saying so much more about so many other things. And it's doing it in such a subtle, powerful way that you may not even realize that you're changing as you're watching it. And that's the true gift of the film, I would say.
What do you think?
Guys, I don't know how to follow that. Like, that was amazing. When I think of A League of Their Own, it's one of those movies where I watch it to the very, very, very end, meaning the final credit of the emblem that comes up the second before the next thing starts because it's on HBO, whatever it's on. Right. I'm like that with Karate Kid and like, you know, like there's like a Back to the Future. There's like movies where it's just like, I won't leave my seat because it's like I'm sitting and I'm thinking about the movie and it's affected me so much. Mm-hmm. And A League of Their Own is that for me. And not to get too mushy, but you know, when Jordan Peele won the Oscar, he talked about representation, you know, like people he could look up to that he was inspired by that made it seem like it was possible. And I sort of said this at the beginning of the movie, but you know, when I watched League of Their Own, I was like, oh, it's possible. Like it's possible. Like I had never seen a movie that had 12 female principal characters, at least.
Yeah.
Directed by a woman, and I was acutely aware of the fact that it was directed by a woman that checked off a gazillion boxes. That was comedic, like truly funny with actual jokes, like hard jokes, was emotional and was saying something. Yeah. And I think the reason it got mixed reviews is because people they want to put it in a box. And it was like, well, it wasn't so funny that it, you know, like,
it's not full comedy.
All the whatever.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's not full emotion. So I don't know what to think of it. Yeah. And I think that I think it's a badge of honor now when you create something where people are like, what am I watching? You know, like, and I feel Blockers had that. I feel like Pitch Perfect had that in a way of like, what? We're seeing that this is possible.
Right.
And this movie made it possible. And it just opened up the doors and minds and imaginations of like young women, girls, you know, like myself when I watched it. So my emotional connection to this movie is so like always on the surface. And it's why if I'm clicking through the television and it's on, it's just immediately stop and like leaning forward in my seat and watching it and then crying as if I hadn't seen it before. And even talking about it, I get emotional just talking about it. So
that's the thing about great movies.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we think about about A League of Their Own. Of course, we always want to hear what you think. You can visit us on our Facebook page. Just do a search for the Cine-Files. You can subscribe to us at all the places, iTunes and YouTube. Please leave a review on iTunes if you haven't already. They are very much appreciated. Please leave a comment on YouTube. If you want to support the show, you can do so by going to our Patreon page, patreon.com/thecine-files, where you can hear all sorts of extra audio clips. You can select a movie that we're going to review. And even if you pledge just $1 a month, it is a tremendous, tremendous help to the show. As always, you can reach me on Twitter at @SRMorris. John, where could they reach you?
You can always reach me at The Roca Says on Twitter and on Instagram. And like I said, all the stuff I do at Collider. And now please don't forget Collider Sports. Now I'm hosting shows there and producing shows there as well. So constantly working, constantly doing stuff. Follow me on my social media and you'll see everything I'm doing there.
Okay, if people wanted to reach you on the strange lands of social media, how would they do so?
Wow, thanks for asking. You can go to @KKCannon, that's KAYKAY Cannon, at any place.
All of them. You're there at all of them.
Yeah.
And is there anything, by the way, I should have asked you before that you're plugging or want to direct people to right now?
It's all.
Should they just all go buy the Blu-ray of Blocker?
Yes.
Yeah. Amazon right now?
I know. When will this come out?
I don't know, a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks.
Awesome. Well, the Blockers was nominated for People's Choice Award
Yay.
Best Comedy of 2018 and Best Comedy Star in John Cena of 2018. And so, whatever. If you'd like to vote for it, you can.
I will,
Up 25 times. It'll be the most important vote you'll make in the next couple of months.
You must vote. If you want to be a good person, you have to go vote for Blockers.
Women, listen, I'm talking to you, women.
Yeah. Support
Blocker.
your gender. That's right. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you,
It's
Kay.
been absolute.
Thanks for having me.
It's been so much fun, and I'm going to hold you to coming back and doing Major League
hell yeah.
if you're really serious about it.
I absolutely, 100%.
All right.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I cannot wait, and I think that is it
Should
for
we
this.
sing out the woke up one
day?
What did I find?
And
Holes
folks,
in my pockets.
that's it for this week.
Memories on my mind.
We'll see you next time.
So
Many dreams I lost on the way.
On the Cine-File.
But most of all, you.